Oh, they had a hearing today on Capitol Hill, always something stupid. And my Congresswoman, Jasmine Crockett, she had a little time today.
This hearing is actually the best example of what waste, fraud, and abuse looks like, because the only reason we're having this hearing is because somebody got their feelings hurt in a debate. And I don't understand why we're wasting taxpayer dollars. Next time, tell your big boy to show up and be ready to handle the woman in the room who hopefully will become the next president of the United States. Nevertheless, while we do have two amazing authors from Project 2025, which it seems like everybody got the memo, like, yes, I'm going to double down and say it's my thing, but I'm going to make sure I also say that it ain't our homeboys thing, because we know that it doesn't poll very well with the American people, because the American people are woke enough to recognize that there is nothing good in it for them. So with that being said, Ms. Perryman, I'm just curious, and this is yes or no. Is Trump's name ever mentioned in Project 2025? Yes or no? Just yes or no. I got you.
Within the document itself,
yes.
There are a number of references to the former administration.
So is Trump's name mentioned just one time?
I believe it's mentioned more.
Okay. 5 times.
I haven't counted.
Oh, okay. Well, if I told you that his name is mentioned approximately 312 times, would you have any reason to dispute that?
I don't have any reason.
Okay, thank you very much. So it's interesting that we want to try to pretend. We're not going to pretend in here. We're going to work with facts and not fiction. So I also want to talk about inflation really quickly with you, Ms. Perryman, because we've talked about it a lot. I'm just curious to know, is the inflation that we just struggled through, was that global or was that limited to the United States?
Global.
Global. Seemingly, it was attached to this thing called the global pandemic. Is that correct?
That is my understanding.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't just the United States.
No.
Okay, so it wasn't just a matter of the Biden-Harris administration in the United States is struggling, right?
I think the United States actually fared better than the rest of the world.
Oh, yeah. In fact, we are. Correct?
I think so, yeah.
All right, but inflation still hurts, and so that's why we have a candidate that has an actual plan instead of concepts of a plan. Or as I like to say, Trump only has offered concepts of constitutionality mixed with coordinations of a coup. But nevertheless, we're going to move on. I want to talk about the internet really quickly, because we wanted to talk about the internet. Actually, let me talk about the border real fast, and then we can talk about Texas in this way. I'd ask for unanimous consent to admit this article from The Hill that says Trump says, blame it on me if border bill fails.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you so much. Now I'm going to move on to the internet, and I'm actually going to talk about Texas, because I believe that the testimony has been somewhere around the fact that no money has actually been disputed as it relates to rural broadband. I'd also ask for unanimous consent to admit this article from the USDA.gov. USDA officials attend groundbreaking to expand high-speed internet access in rural Texas, dated March 7th, 2024, Italy, Texas.
Without objection, so ordered.
Thank you so much.
With respect, that was not the testimony.
Oh, I thought you said no dollars had been spent.
The largest single program.
My question is, did you not say
$42 billion.
Okay.
0 houses have been connected. There are other federal programs, including Trump-era ones, that right now are turning dirt and connecting.
Okay, so just to be clear, because I don't want the American people to be confused, because I was confused, because it almost seemed as if, considering the fact the name of this hearing is the failed policies, as if nothing had been done. But to clarify for those that are watching, you aren't saying that no dollars have been spent as it relates to rural broadband dollars under the Infrastructure Act, correct?
To be clear, for the signature effort, $42
yes
billion,
or no? Have any dollars been spent?
not a
$1.
single person has been connected. That's
not my question, though. My question was, have any
issues. Senator Ted Cruz from
Okay,
Texas
I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on. I'm reclaiming my time at this point.
Many of these bills,
I'm reclaiming my time, which means, Chairman, I'm going to ask you to stop my time, because the witness is not.
Are you asking him a question? Or are you?
No, I'm not asking him a question. I reclaim my time.
All right. Chair recognizes Ms. Crockett.
Okay, now I was at 41, y'all, so go back up.
We'll give you 9 more seconds.
Okay, thank you so much. Here's the deal. You've testified a lot about the problem with the broadband rollout being diversity, equity, and inclusion. You said DEI, I don't know how many times, which is one of the issues that Project 2025 takes issue with. But it's interesting to me because I have another article from the Texas Tribune, and it actually specifically states that internet providers say they are simultaneously hopeful and skeptical about whether the incoming federal dollars will be enough to connect the most underserved Texans. Historically, other federal rural broadband funding programs have seen limited success because many companies who committed to providing broadband went into default after radically underestimating their cost. It doesn't say anything about diversity. And the final thing that I will say is that this election, I didn't ask you a question. The final thing that I will say is that this election is the best example of why y'all are so afraid of diversity, equity, and inclusion, because then you can't have a simple-minded, underqualified white man somehow end up ascending. Instead, you've got to pay attention to the qualified black woman that is on the other side. And with that, I will yield.
Reese?
I just love Jasmine Kick-Ass Crockett. Man, she just take it to him every time, and she has the receipts, the invoices, all of that. And she's a boss, and I love her authenticity, and I love her command of the facts, because a lot of times people see the presentation and they see the sass, and she got a little slang that she talks, and they don't really recognize that she knows exactly what the hell that she's talking about. She already know the answer before she asks you the question, and she's paying attention. And so that white man thought he was going to outwit and outsmart and out talk her. And he learned today, ain't gonna happen, Captain. So I love that. And the reality is that the numbers really drive the point home. I didn't even search how many times Trump appears in Project 2025, but over 300 mentions of Donald Trump's name specifically. And then they want to sit up there acting like, who? Donald Trump? Who? Donald Trump had nothing to do with that. We are not buying it. We're not buying it at all. And I really don't even like the idea that Donald Trump has concepts of a plan when he clearly has a 920-something page roadmap blueprint of a plan. And that doesn't even count the thousands of appointees that he wants to install over civil workers and the judges that he's going to get a list from the Federalist Society and all kinds of people. So I think he has much more than concepts of a plan, but he wants to try to make it seem like he's yielding. And
he's lying. I mean, we all know he's lying in the role he's playing. Now, there was another member of Congress who lit this Project 2025 author up over the issue of Haiti. I want to get that in. Pull this up, y'all. First of all, before we go there, Unite for America. We're a little more than 10 minutes away. Pull it up. We're a little more than 10 minutes away. We're going to go live to it as soon as it starts. But I want to play this before we do. Go.
Good morning. Mr. Kerkorian, you're an advisory board member for Project 2025, correct? Yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Kerkorian, in addition to being a Project 2025 board member, you also run the Center for Immigration Studies. You've done that for decades, where you spread and disseminated writings of people like Kevin McDonald, John Friend, and Jared Taylor, correct?
We used to have an email service that distributed links to
their writings. That's right.
And the New York Times and all kinds of other.
Correct. And yes, I know that you're aware that you spread the writings of these three along with others, but these three are egregious examples. McDonald is the editor of a white nationalist journal. Your organization, as you said, disseminated his writings. He blamed Jewish people for the deaths of millions of people in the 20th century. John Friend, who you just said you disseminated his writings, is an infamous Holocaust denier. You spread his writings. Jared Taylor stated, quote, and I quote, this horrible quote, that when black people are left on their own, civilization disappears, end quote. That's what he said. You, a Project 2025,
you distributed only.
You only distributed. Correct. I understand. I'm reclaiming my time, Mr. Chairman. Correct. You only disseminated writings from multiple white nationalists. Reclaiming my time. I'm going to ask you a question, sir. I'm going to ask you the next question.
About immigration.
Reclaiming my time, Mr. Chairman. I'd like that time back. So you, a Project 2025 board member, you're stating you did not disseminate, for example, Mr. Taylor, Mr. McDonald, or Mr. Friend's specific quotes here, but you just continuously disseminated these white nationalists' writing. One time is a problem. When you do it over and over and over again, it's a pattern. But I'll stop asking about the things that you and your organization disseminated. I'll ask you, Mr. Kerkorian, and I know you're a Project 2025 board member, your recent quote from a few years ago where you said, quote, Haiti is so screwed up because it wasn't colonized long enough, end quote. Is that correct? Did you say that?
I'm happy to talk about that all you want.
You did say it. That's
I wrote
right.
It, yes.
You said that. Haiti was colonized as a slave plantation colony. The French colonized Haiti so that slaves would work on plantations. The end of colonization in Haiti was so that the people there would no longer be slaves. So what you're saying, and I read your quote, and anybody watching this online should go read it. What you're saying is it would have been good if they'd stayed colonized, which means that it would have been good if they had stayed enslaved by the French.
In the long run, it's one of the
in the long run,
history. No,
people shouldn't have been enslaved a single day. I'm reclaiming my time, Chairman.
And they had every right. They had every right to throw the.
What
French
you said is that you would have wanted them. Reclaiming my time. I'm talking now.
They would have been freed 30 years later, and they would have been in the same situation.
You're saying you wanted 30 more years of slavery in Haiti. Reclaiming my time.
I did not.
You just said it. Honestly, it adds up. You said that they would have benefited from the French influence.
In the
French
long
were
run,
the ones.
like the people in Martinique and
reclaiming my time, Mr. Chairman. I'd like my time back. Please.
Enslaved.
My time. This is my time, Mr. Kerkorian.
They are much better off.
Honestly, this all starts to add up. This all starts to add up. You continue to do this, disseminate writings of white nationalists, try to rationalize, for example, Haiti being colonized for 30 more years. You're a Project 2025 board member. In Project 2025, I couldn't figure out why on page 583 it advocates for not allowing racial disparity or gender disparity to be considered discrimination legally anymore. In Project 2025, it eliminates a 50-year-old executive order that prohibits discrimination in federal jobs. On page 586, Project 2025 advocates for Donald Trump to allow businesses to discriminate based on religious beliefs. Before today, I couldn't understand why Trump's Project 2025 could advocate for ending civil rights protections. Why would Trump's Project 2025, I know there's crazy stuff in here, but I couldn't get why it would advocate for ending protections against discrimination. But now I understand. We have.
Well, hot damn, Greg.
Well,
and that was Greg Caesar, a Democratic congressman from Texas out of Austin. Go ahead.
No. Yeah. I mean, I finally got my hand on a physical copy of Project 2025. Yeah, I've been stalking one. I finally got my hands on one. Couldn't get one down at the Heritage Foundation. And, I did go down there looking for it. But, this is completely logical. We have to remember that the white supremacist who runs this project, who runs that foundation, Kevin Roberts, is Dr. Kevin Roberts. 21 years ago, he wrote his dissertation at the University of Texas on slaves and slavery in Louisiana, the evolution of Atlantic world identity, 1791 to 1831. If those dates sound familiar, 1791 was the date of the beginning of the Haitian Revolution. 1831 was the Nat Turner Rebellion in Virginia. Dr. Kevin Roberts, the captain of the Project 2025 flagship, would say, and I read his dissertation, he's arguing, among other things, that assimilation into the American culture is what improved people of African descent, but ultimately it was their failure to kind of meld together that led to the problem. The logic that what he's saying about in Haiti, when you read scholars in Haiti and scholars on the Haitian Revolution, after Toussaint Louverture, you had Jean-Jacques Dessalines and then Henri Christophe. Christophe becomes a king in Haiti. They had challenges in state formation. These white nationalists, and this is where it's very clear, these white nationalists believe that the problems that Haiti had in the early days after the putting out the French, the English, and the Spanish, the problems they had were because somehow black people are inferior, genetically inferior. We eat cats and dogs and things like that, and we're not qualified to be the president of the United States, all those kind of things. But what the historians will tell you is the problems Haiti had were because every other country in the hemisphere, terrified that the rest of us were going to turn up and tear the place up, excluded Haiti from any form of trade. The United States didn't recognize Haiti until 1863. Our friend Abraham Lincoln, all of you crying crocodile tears over the great emancipator, who wanted, by the way, to send black people out of the country, and Haiti was one of the places they considered during the Lincoln administration. My point is that What these white nationalists always do is exclude the hand of white nationalism and global white supremacy whenever factoring in the challenges African people have had. This is so on brand, it should come as no surprise. That is how they think. So the only way you can deal with them is not to argue with them, because Kevin Roberts, quite frankly, knows more about the Haitian Revolution than most of the people who would claim they know something about the Haitian Revolution. The way you deal with them is to break their effing backs. You have to break them politically. You have to break them socially. You have to break them economically with your dollars. You're not going to argue with them on any common basis of logic, because if you don't understand white supremacy, everything else you think you understand will only confuse you.
Lauren, I got about 90 seconds to 2 minutes. Go.
Yeah, I mean, everything Dr. Carr said, everything with them leads back to some sort of argument that they're superior. I remember when the bell curve came out. It's the same thing. Project 2025 is the same thing. They're just always wanting to say that they're superior. And, to Greg's point, winning these elections is what stops that forward progress on these policies. And I guess tonight in a few minutes we'll see more discussion, Joe Taka and the gang, with regard to the next hour with the vice president and friends. So it's an amazing thing to watch a major political party implode into this, into hatred of other people and really into racism.
Here's a 78-year-old billionaire who has not stopped whining about his problems.
Oh, she had a big crowd. Oh, the crowd.
This weird obsession with crowd sizes. It just goes on and on and on. America's ready for a new chapter. We are ready for a President Kamala Harris.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve.
Hi, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Fanbase is a free-to-download, free-to-use, next-generation social media platform that allows anyone to have followers and subscribers on the same page. Fanbase was built through investment dollars from equity crowdfunding from the Jobs Act. People just like you helped build Fanbase, and we're looking for more people to help build Fanbase. We are currently raising $17 million in a Regulation A crowdfund on Start Engine. We've already crossed $2.1 million, but we're looking to raise more capital from people just like you that deserve the opportunity to invest in early-stage startups without having to be accredited investors. So right now, I'd like you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase right now, today. And then use Fanbase to connect with friends, grow your audience, and be you without limits.
Things got heated on Capitol Hill. Y'all, they were dealing with the issue of DEI. And let me tell you something. Two of the black women on this panel were not having any of it. First up, here is Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas, bringing the funk.
So many of you know that I practice law, but some of you don't realize that I actually was a business major out of Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee. And the emphasis that I got in my business degree was on finance. And as I traveled the country campaigning this election cycle, one of the things that I talked about was this idea that in finance, we always promote this idea of diversity. If you know anything about a portfolio, the one thing that you want to do is make sure that it's as diverse as possible, because at times certain stocks will perform better than others, and they will exemplify various strengths and weaknesses. And together, a diverse portfolio is usually what any good finance person would promote. They wouldn't promote that you solely invest in vanilla wafers, believing that that is going to be the strongest portfolio, but instead they may want to add some chocolate cake and some Twinkies into the mix to make sure that we have the best portfolio, because there will be different preferences by different people. And again, there will be different strengths. But as I sit here and I think about what we say and what I'm hearing as it relates to diversity when it comes to anything outside of making money. And to be clear, we are losing GDP every time we try to push back on this idea of diversity, because all of us bring something different to the table. But you consistently said over and over the word oppression, and every time that you said it, it was almost as if I was hearing nails on a chalkboard, because it seems like you don't understand the definition of oppression, and I'd ask you to just refer to Google to help you out. Oppression is the prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment or control. That is the definition of oppression. And so as I sit here as a Black woman who practiced civil rights, let me tell you, the reason that my colleagues wanted to make sure you understood the same Black history that your side of the aisle wants to delete out of classrooms is because you can then misuse words like oppression. There has been no oppression for the white man in this country. You tell me which white men were dragged out of their homes. You tell me which one of them got dragged all the way across an ocean and told that you are going to go and work. We are going to steal your wives. We are going to rape your wives. That didn't happen. That is oppression. We didn't ask to be here. We're not the same migrants that y'all constantly come up against. We didn't run away from home. We were stolen. So yeah, we are going to sit here and be offended when you want to sit here and act like, and don't let it escape you that it is white men on this side of the aisle telling us, people of color on this side of the aisle, that y'all are the ones being oppressed, that y'all are the ones that are being harmed. That's not the definition of oppression. You tell me the prolonged, cruel, or unjust treatment that you've had, and we can have a conversation.
You could start with Exodus.
The final thing that I will say on this particular issue, two things. There is an article from The Guardian, and it is a little old. It's from 2021, so I apologize. But it said that back then, just 3 years ago, white men represent 30% of the population, but 62% of office holders. These are the issues that we are constantly looking at and recognizing and trying to say, is this just? I can't even tell you how many white men have served in this chamber, but I can tell you that I am only the 55th Black woman to be elected to Congress. And so when you want to talk about history and pretend as if it was so long ago, it wasn't. Because again, I am just number 55. Finally, when we start to talk about what do these numbers do, as we're trying to say that diversity, equity, and inclusion is the problem, the reality is that when it comes to financial performance, companies with more diverse workforces are more likely to outperform their competitors. Companies in the top quartile for racial diversity are 35% more likely to outperform their peers on profitability. Companies with diverse executive teams are 25% more likely to generate greater profits. Diverse companies earn 2.5 times higher cash flow per employee. Diversity works. And until you can show me data that says otherwise, I think that we need to go back to being a country that listens to experts and gets out of our feelings and recognizes, again, that racism is real in this country. And until we stop pretending that it's not, we will not solve the problems that we are consistently facing. And that will bring real unity that we seek when we're looking for a more perfect union.
Ooh, Congresswoman Summer Lee, she said, I want some of that.
I'm not in favor of the Dismantle Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Act, or what it maybe would more aptly be called the dismantling any semblance of support or opportunity for certain American acts. We know who those Americans are. Americans who have not enjoyed centuries of unfair advantages by keeping others enslaved or segregated or disenfranchised or incarcerated or redlined or gerrymandered or excluded by law. Americans who've lived with disabilities or had their relationships criminalized or their gender expression demonized. If we're being honest here, this bill, which will wipe out every diversity, equity, and inclusion program in our federal agencies, plus those who contract with us, plus those who receive grant money, plus our schools, is nothing new. This is just the final piece of a decades-long obsession with targeting and dismantling anything that might give marginalized people a fair shot, including DEI programs, which honestly started the second the Civil Rights Act passed. Policies like affirmative action and diversity, equity, inclusion are the closest things we've had to the mythical bootstraps that some of my colleagues insist historically and currently harmed communities need to pick themselves up by. After centuries of efforts to keep us out of schools and universities, from jobs and elected office, Republicans targeting these policies are no accident. Why do predominantly conservative white men believe that the success of a black person or the opportunity or access of a black person is an existential threat to them? DEI is not given any unfair advantage that society itself does not already confer on certain Americans. It merely exists to ensure that all other people, that women, minoritized folks, queer folks, disabled folks, have the same opportunities to succeed and thrive in our workforce and our schools as people who have not had those opportunities systematically and legally stripped from them do. Is our country not greater when all of us have opportunities to succeed and contribute and survive? Our success and our survival as a nation is bound together. Diversity, equity, and inclusion programs only exist to band-aid over decades, hell, centuries of discrimination against people's skin color, their religion, disabilities, gender, or sexual orientations, you name it. Contrary to Republican conjecture, remedying past discrimination is not, in turn, a discrimination. And we're not going to sit here and pretend racism is over just because one black person on the Supreme Court agreed that it should be. What DEI does not do is give some kind of magical pass to better jobs, like some of our colleagues are implying. That middle word, equity, does not mean more than or better than. It means treating people fairly and impartially. It means working to fix generational and systemic discrimination to the betterment of all of us and all of our institutions. But instead, Republicans are trying to bastardize the term DEI to be a slur. When Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson was up for confirmation and when Vice President Harris was added to the ticket, they called them DEI hires. They want you to believe that a Harvard graduate with over 20 years of experience, who happens to be a black woman, is not qualified, but a Fox News personality is qualified to run the Department of Defense, and the WWE executive is qualified to run the Department of Education. Let's be real. There is an attempt to create a direct correlation between our race, being a black person, and our qualifications. So much as to say that there is no way to be a black woman. There is no resume that a black person could have that would qualify them unless that black person is a Republican. And there is a quota there. And while all of this has happened at the top level of our government, I can promise you these same things are happening on every single level of government and private sector. But those people don't have a national platform to speak out against discriminatory treatment. Where is a federal worker supposed to turn when another coworker says a racist comment to them in the break room? Where is the same-sex couple who is denied housing supposed to, because of their relationship, supposed to turn? Where is a pregnant woman who was fired for being pregnant supposed to go? Often the only place that they have to give them recourse are the diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. These folks just want to do their jobs, serving the American people in an environment that feels safe and supports them. Making work a better, safer environment for some does not mean it automatically is worse for others. And those complaining about DEI training are probably the ones who need it the most. My Republican colleagues have got to stop punching down on already marginalized communities and face their own fears of a level playing field privately. It's shameful. I yield back.
See, that's what I'm talking about, Daniel. Why you gotta have black representation in the room.
Let me tell you something, man. I wish them sisters had a campaign donation button up when they were speaking. We have to stand up when we see people not just speaking truth to power, but, you know, we cannot continue to allow the types of things that are happening to continue without being vocal. And I think one thing about this group, this platform I'm sharing with you all and with our other speakers is we're seeing this happening in real time. And there was a time in my generation, I'm 45. There was a time in my generation that a lot of us were like, we don't see how they could have did this in 1968, or they wouldn't have hit me like this when I was crossing the Edmund-Pettus. This is our 1968. This is our time to not just sit in the corner idly by. We have too many brilliant minds coming out of Howard and Clark, Atlanta, Morehouse, Spelman, Florida A&M. We can no longer stand idly by while they are doing these things under the threat that they're just going to happen. So I actually am not only proud of what those sisters said, I'm not only proud of how they stood there, but I hope they inspired people around them to do the same. Because as you heard the second sister, Ms. Summer Lee, when she mentioned about the qualifications, we're acting as if we haven't been disrespected in the sense of being overqualified. Heck, Michelle Obama was the most decorated, educated, degree-having first lady in the history of our country, yet and still there were questions about her qualifications as a first lady. So when we see these things happening to Vice President Harris or to our sister that sits on the Supreme Court, Justice Brown, we have to step up and stop allowing them to dumb it down and accept it as if it's normal.
Given.
Yeah, look, Roland, I mean, the past few weeks have been really hard for a lot of Democrats, including myself. But, hearing these clips, I feel a lot of hope about the future of our party because of young leaders like Congresswoman Lee and Congresswoman Crockett. And if I could speak just about Jasmine Crockett for a minute, no one says it quite like she does. I think she's one of the most effective communicators and messengers that we have in the entire Democratic Party. I'm really excited that a lot of people got to know her and got to see her and hear her during this campaign cycle at the DNC, where I was on the speechwriting team, as you know, Roland, and on this very show. I remember, Roland, on the first day of early voting in Texas, you did an interview with her. And so platforms like these, so important, right, for making sure the American people, including those in our community, know about those leaders who are in these spaces and in these rooms, speaking up about the issues that matter most to our community. I think it's also important to underscore that, Congresswoman Lee Crockett and, all those who are in our Congressional Black Caucus, they're not just speaking up about these issues. They're speaking up about the issues that matter most to the American people, whether it's the cost of food, the cost of housing, healthcare access, reproductive freedom. They're on the front lines for so many of these issues that directly impact our communities. And of course, DEI and the attacks that we're seeing are included in that. But our leaders are on the front lines, making sure that our country moves forward on so many issues. And I think with these clips, we're reminded of just how fortunate our community is, and in fact, the American people are, to have representatives, true representatives like Jasmine Crockett and Summer Lee, who are standing up for our community and for the people and against these attacks that MAGA Republicans, again, it's their side that's bringing these attacks, that are talking about DEI and all of this. They're the ones who are bringing these attacks, and there are going to be a lot of them over the next 4 years. But I'm so grateful and I'm excited that we have representatives like Summer Lee and Jasmine Crockett. And I know Jasmine Crockett ran for DPCC chair earlier this week. That's the Democratic Policy and Communications Committee. She didn't win, but I'm really excited to see how she and Congresswoman Lee continue to lead and to rise within this party.
Scott, there are a lot of people, obviously, who are frustrated, they're sad, they are angry, people talking about giving up, all sorts of stuff like that. And I've had people tell me, I don't understand how you just moved on. I said, well, first of all, I didn't just move on. I said, I know what happened. I said, but what I also realize is there is a tomorrow. And you're looking at two individuals. Republicans right now control the House. They're going to control the Senate. They're going to control the White House after January 20th. And I just got to remind people that there were days when Oscar DePriest, when Ralph Metcalf, when John Conyers, that's right, when you had black folks who were in Congress, and they had Adam Clayton Powell, and they were dealing with just straight up hardcore violent racist, and they went to work every day. Right. They went to work every day in the face of Jim Crow segregation. And I think what this generation has to understand is it's now your time. Mm-hmm. And you can either give up, be despondent, be sad, go into a state of depression, or you can fight. And for me, I'm not going to do that bullshit Joe and Mika did. Just go to Mar-a-Lago and let's do a reset. Hell no. My studio is 2 blocks from the White House. I have absolutely no intention on going to the White House for the next 4 years after January 20th. I'm not going to normalize this administration. I'm not going to sit here and play footsie with this administration. But I need folk to understand that, damn it, there is still a fight to be had because there is still a tomorrow that we must focus on. And that's what these two sisters are doing.
Yeah. You know, Roland, I talk to juries for a living at least 3 or 4 times a year. And so when I hear the sisters talk, I'm listening not just for cadence, but substance, eloquence, articulation, and discipline, and no emotion, right? And what bothers me most about those 2 presentations aren't the presentations, but how eloquently they laid out the hypocrisy. And what bothers me is that the hypocrisy that is so clear in the both sides of this issue, why it's not resonating with the majority of Americans. That why don't they get it? Or if they get it, they just ignore it. And I'm not talking about just Republicans. I'm talking about independents and Democrats as well. Why 50% of America voted for Donald Trump and are endorsing these appointments that are nothing less than embarrassing. You know, I think you're right about, I think about the brothers and sisters, our parents, our grandparents, who fought in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, right? What character or manner of men they were to fight against outright segregation and racial oppression and the Night Riders. You know, I think about your parents who not only on the picket line, but were registered people to vote for the last 30, 40, 50 years. Or my dad and Reverend Singleton and Joliet, Illinois, who were foot soldiers for Martin Luther King, and in the face desegregating education institutions, hospitals, and the government. Let me tell you something. Those were the real freedom fighters. We seem like we don't want to fight that much, or there's not that much to fight about. But my father on his deathbed said, we've seen Trump before. We've seen him worse. He talked about Governor Wallace and Bull Connor in Philadelphia. He said, you know, y'all crazy about Trump, but let me tell you something. We've been fighting the same stuff for the last 30, 40, 50 years, or 200 years, if you will. So to the young people and to my generation, load up. We got to ride out. You may not like the fight. You may think that we've gotten past that. But as Professor Glaude says, America's got to face the racism and sexism, misogyny and xenophobia that it is. Not who it wants it to be, not who America wants to be, but who it is. Because this last election showed us who America still is as we try to form this more perfect union. There's a ton more work to do. And we can't do it by ourselves. So you're right. You can be depressed for a day or two, but in the end, you got to get up and get back in the fight, because the fight is real. It's not going away, and it's not going to change. We're not going to win unless it's up to us, unless we do it. And so we all have that responsibility.
Hi, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Fanbase is a free to download, free to use, next generation social media platform that allows anyone to have followers and subscribers on the same page. Fanbase was built through investment dollars from equity crowdfunding from the Jobs Act. People just like you help build Fanbase, and we're looking for more people to help build Fanbase. We are currently raising $17 million in a Regulation 8 crowdfund on Start Engine. We've already crossed $2.1 million, but we're looking to raise more capital from people just like you that deserve the opportunity to invest in early stage startups without having to be accredited investors. So right now, I'd like you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase right now, today. And then use Fanbase to connect with friends, grow your audience, and be you without limits.
Whoa, Nelly! Keith Jackson used to always use that phrase when he was calling college football, and that's probably what he would have said last night if he was calling the House Oversight Committee game last night between the donkeys and the elephants. I know you were up late because, see, a lot of them Trumpers, they were down in New York City looking like some damn fools standing there defending Donald Trump. He was in court. So the committee, they actually got to work late last night, and damn, clearly some folks needed some sleep. Really?
I'd like to know if any of the Democrats on this committee are employing Judge Merchan's daughter.
Please tell me what that has to do with Merrick Garland.
Is she a porn star?
Oh, Goldman. That's right. He's advising. Okay.
He's advising who? What? Do you know what we're here for? You know we're here about AG.
I don't think you know what you're here for.
Well, you the one talking about.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
No, ain't nothing.
Hold on.
Listen.
Order. Mr. Chairman,
that's beneath even
order. Engage the order of your committee.
Order.
Please.
There's a point of order.
We have a point of order. Mr. Lynch, state your point.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to ask the parliamentarian if your conduct here in raising money in connection with this hearing is referable to the Ethics Committee within this hearing. Is a motion in order to refer your conduct and your abuse of
It's not a point of order.
I do have a point of order, and I would like to move to take down Ms. Green's words. That is absolutely unacceptable. How dare you attack the physical appearance of another person?
Are your feelings hurt?
Her words down.
Aww.
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Oh, really?
Don't even play.
Baby girl?
We are going to move, and we're going to take your words down.
I second that motion.
So who will have to pay? Okay. All right. We're suspending.
Absolutely.
I don't know. It's crazy. It's disintegrating.
No, we're taking her words down. No way is that being allowed. He has retract. Absolutely not. Absolutely.
So she agrees to I don't know how much longer I'm going to be over.
Not today.
Yeah.
Not today.
I got to find some place.
Ms. Green, do you wish to strike your words?
I have 4 minutes and 21 seconds to speak.
I think we have to do the motion first, and then unless there's another motion, then you'll be recognized again. But I believe there's another motion coming. So will you agree to strike your words?
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Green agrees to strike her words.
I believe she should apologize. No.
Perry, okay, hold on. Then after Mr. Perry's going to be recognized, then Ms. Green
I'm not
has 4 minutes and
apologizing.
21
Well,
seconds.
then you're not
the right to
striking your
object.
words.
I am not apologizing.
Now let's go. Come on, guys.
Why don't you debate me?
Mr. Chairman, the minority.
Self-evident.
You're not.
Yeah, you're not.
Out of order.
You don't have enough
You're out of order.
intelligence.
Chair recognizes Mr. Perry.
Okay, move to strike the. I move to strike the lady's words.
I would like
The lady's words again.
That's 2 requests to strike. That's 2 requests to strike.
Oh, they cannot take the words.
There's another motion to strike her words again. Please
All right,
get
okay,
your members under
here's
control.
the correct apology. Ms. Green, do you agree to unanimous consent to strike your words?
I repeat again for the second time. Yes, I'll strike my words, but I'm not apologizing.
Without objection.
Not apologizing.
Reserving the right to object.
Chairman,
I reserve the right to object.
Mr. Perry.
I reserve the right to object.
Mr. Chairman, I move that Mr. Goldman's words and Ms. Ocasio-Cortez's words be stricken.
Okay.
Which words? And you have to do it contemporaneously. Object. The objection must be contemporaneous, and they haven't spoken in 10 minutes.
Nobody's spoken in 10 minutes.
Well, that's right. Therefore, defeating your proposal.
You all have.
Now the chair recognizes Ms. Green for 4 minutes and 21 seconds.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
Who's?
It's me.
Ms. Crockett.
I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling, if someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
What now?
Chairman, I make a motion to strike those words.
I don't think that's
I'm trying to find clarification on what quality.
Chairman, motion to strike those words.
I had no idea what you just said.
We're not gonna do this. Look, you guys earlier, literally just.
You just voted to do it.
Y'all did it first, so you want to talk about
voted to do it.
Order.
I'm trying to get
clarification.
Look at, calm down.
No, because this is what y'all do. So I'm trying to get clarification.
You're not recognized. Ms. Crockett.
I can't hear you with your yelling.
Don't want
calm
me to
down.
Be,
Can you please calm down?
Don't tell me to calm down.
Calm down.
Because y'all talk noise, and then
You're
can't
out of
take
control.
Because if I
Chairman,
come and talk shit about her, y'all gonna have a problem.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, Chair.
You're
Order. Chair now recognizes
Not cute.
Ms. Green for 4 minutes and 21 seconds. 4 minutes. Let Ms. Green talk, and then you all can. I'll recognize.
But I moved to strike her words for a second time based on her second set of personal remarks attacking another member.
Who? Chairman Comer.
Because you all cannot seem
I have an amendment at
to
the desk,
apply
and this
the
sideshow
rules of the
needs to
committee.
stop.
We have to do this every time.
Okay, I'm recognized. I'm going to go ahead and start talking.
Look, I know. Look, I don't know if you've noticed it. I have 2 hearing aids. I'm very deaf. I'm not understanding. Everybody's yelling. I'm doing the best I can. Can we not recognize Ms. Green and let her get?
We cannot because of the rules of the committee, Mr. Chair. That is what I'm trying to communicate in the present moment.
We have a Okay, what's the motion?
The motion is to strike the gentlelady's words for the second set of remarks, not the first, the second. That applied to me.
She has no idea. I think, Mr. Chairman, I'm the only one recognized right now.
We objected at the time.
Will the member state the word she wishes struck?
She told me, or she asserted that I was not intelligent. These are the specific words. We can have it read by the clerk.
It was made immediately.
And it was made immediately. I am not moving now.
I don't think it was timely.
I am not moving now.
It was made immediately, both by the gentlelady and by me.
Mr. Chair, it was made immediately.
It was made immediately,
both
by the gentlelady and by me.
Return to us.
She said, "You don't have the intelligence to talk to me," is what she said.
The chair recognizes Ms. Green for 4 minutes and 21 seconds.
Mr. Chair, what is happening with the ruling?
I object to the ruling now.
We must object.
I mean, if you want to take it up.
Suck it. What did she actually? Did she say? Matter of fact,
bleach blonde,
bad built.
Butch body.
I got it written down. It's going to be on a T-shirt very soon.
It's already posted on my social media. The African history.
I saw.
Got it.
Hold on. I saw this tweet today from my man Wesley Snipes. He says, "Suddenly, go to my iPad. I like Metro Boomin to make a beat with bleach, blonde, bad built, butch, and body in the beat."
Today's show has been brought to you by the letter B.
Today's show's been brought to you by Clorox. Kelly, it was a little crazy there, Kelly.
I'm here for. I think she should have taken it a step further, because for me, after all of that, I would have been like, bitch," because what you're not going to do is come for me when I didn't send for you. That's what we're not going to do. We're not going to have that kind of decorum in the House of Congress when I didn't even call for it. I was out here minding my business, representing the great state of Texas, and you coming over here talking about eyelashes that you need, not me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the alliteration for me. It was the restraint for me, because it was clear that she could have taken it a step further, and she didn't. Because if it were me, I probably would have not been in Congress anymore. There would have been, some slow singing and flower bringing. I'm not going to hold you.
That was delicious, Michael.
Not delicious.
That was delicious. That was delicious.
I watched it earlier today, and Marjorie Trailer Park Trash Green, I think she bit off more than she could chew. She opened up a can of whoop ass. She couldn't put the lid back on. But this dysfunction, I want people to really understand what's going on. This dysfunction and Republicans being in control of the House of Representatives and all the committees. That's why Representative James Comer of Kentucky is the chairman of this committee. is the result of about 7,000 votes over a handful of House races in 2022. That's why Republicans are in charge. That's why in 2023, they only got 27 bills passed in the House of Representatives, whereas in 2022, when Democrats were in control of the House, they got about 300 bills passed. They have still not passed a budget. They have still not passed a fiscal year budget. They're on there. I think their third continuing resolution. Yeah, I think it's their third continuing resolution. This is the dysfunction. This is how elections have consequences. You can't get bills passed that are meaningful to us because of BS like this and simple Simon-ass people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. And Comer doesn't even understand the rules of the committee. He's the chairman. Okay? These people are not built for leadership. It's easy to just say no and vote no on everything when you're in the minority, like Republicans were. Now, when you have to govern, they're showing they cannot govern. This is why 2024 November is so crucial.
Yo, I just sat there and it was crazy. You know what? Here's Matt. If I'm Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, my Congresswoman. From the great state of Texas, if I'm her, the next time the House Oversight Committee meets, if I was her, I would walk into the committee room and I would say, "Coma, give me my theme song."
Okay, all right. I'm continually surprised on this show because
I'm telling you. No, go ahead, turn the audio up. Leave it on the pad, turn the audio up. Just the audio.
Shit, I was on my third dance. Nigga, what you think I can just run up in here and snap my fingers and make these motherfuckers throw their money at me? Nigga, I ain't even made payout yet.
Walk that trick, walk that trick,
Hey, I'm just saying, you go have a theme song, I would say, "Coma, give me my theme music."
Well, I love that you're King Petty and you leaning in because that gave me a good laugh. But I want to say, when I watch this show, I often look at the comments from our brothers and sisters on YouTube. And somebody named Riz B said exactly what I was thinking. They said, "Look at this shit. These are lawmakers." And Michael kind of alluded to it. But when I watched this, it was funny. I love Jasmine Crockett. I think she's brilliant. I think she is outspoken. And I think that she is important, right? Because not only is she outspoken and she's brilliant, but she doesn't always say things the way they want to hear it, but she never sacrifices the truth. And I appreciate that. But as a citizen, this kind of thing infuriates me. They can't even figure out how to keep the government open half the time. They can't pass bills. And this dog and pony show that they engage in, really, to me, I mean, not Jasmine Crockett, because it was obviously reactionary to what Marjorie Taylor Greene said. But Marjorie Taylor Greene in particular, it's so much now about the pageantry that it's not about leading. And even if I were in her district, it would infuriate me because I would feel like you're more about sound bites than you are making sure that the port comes to our district to make sure we have what we need. And while this is funny, it is also, it portends really a horrible trend that we're seeing in our politicians. And I want to kind of speak on this because I'm sure you did this on the show yesterday. I didn't get to watch it. But Greg Abbott pardoning Sergeant Daniel Perry is like one of the most gross tyrannical decisions I've seen in a very long time. And it is purely ideological. And the point with that is this. What you're seeing politicians these days do is just play for sound bites and clicks. And that's what this is about. I mean, we're talking about in the House chamber. But what's really insidious about this is that you see what very often happens to black people and to black women when a white person particularly says something offensive, throws a rock, hides their hands, and then the goalpost moves, and now they're the ones upholding the rules of decorum, right? And, oh, you can't say that, and we got to do it the right way. I mean, that is horseshit. The idea that you would call somebody out about their physical appearance when it's not in any way germane to what's going on, and then try to act like you get to control how she responds to that is offensive. And that's something that people deal with all the time, of all walks of life. But it's especially ridiculous to see it in people whom we pay to make the decisions that control our lives and who are continuously less able to do that because they're playing political games. So this is a problem because we shouldn't be dealing with this. You should be figuring out how to make our healthcare cheaper, and you should be figuring out how to keep the government open. But instead, you're engaging in this kind of chicanery.
There were some other moments during the hearing, and this is courtesy of Congressman Jared Moskowitz.
Chair recognizes Mr. Moskowitz.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, so welcome to Oversight After Dark. If you love James Comer at 11 o'clock in the morning, you're really going to love him at 8:30 p.m. So, members, the hearing was moved today. We don't have to ask the question. The hearing was moved today so that members could go to New York and attend the Trump hearing. But how's he doing? He's complained that he's chilly in the courtroom. Is it chilly? Is it chilly?
Will the gentleman yield?
No, I'll assume it's chilly.
He's doing very good.
Okay, good. So, it was mentioned by the ranking member about really what we're doing here. You don't have to listen to my words. I would like to do a spirited reading of the campaign email sent out by the chairman. And it's on lovely stationery. In fact, it says, from the desk of the oversight chairman. I'm not sure you can do that, but I'm not an ethics expert. It says, friend. President Biden is exerting executive privilege in a last-ditch attempt to stop the disastrous audio recording of his interview with special counsel from being released. And it's highlighted in yellow. Want to make sure people saw that. Just a few months ago, the White House bragged that Joe Biden had nothing to hide and would not exert executive privilege during special counsel Hur's investigation. They even said he had nothing to hide. That's in italics. Now Biden and his advisors are terrified that I, James Comer, will release the recordings, forcing the media and the Democrats to answer for the dismal decline of Biden's mental state. He even had attorney Merrick Garland write a letter saying that his interview falls within the scope of executive privilege. This could be the final blow with swing voters across the country. Okay. You and I know, hold on, we're not done, it gets better. You and I know he's not up for the job, but the mainstream's media refusal to report on it as only keeping him in the game. Stand with Comer. The Democrats. You sure about that? The Democrats are pulling out all the stops to stop the bleeding. That means coming after me with everything they had. If you're able, we hope you are, I'd be so grateful if you'd consider making a donation to my campaign. I sure need it to defend against the onslaught of attacks. Thank you for everything. James Comer, chairman of the House Oversight Committee. Without objection, I'd like to enter that into the record.
Without objection, so ordered.
All right, beautiful.
Now, that's what's a trip. Here you got Comer sitting there, and he's fundraising off of it. They ain't got no proof of nothing. They ain't. And then you talking about you want to hold Merrick Garland in contempt when that fool Jim Jordan is sitting right there on the committee, and his punk ass is still in contempt more than 700 days later.
Yes. This is the dysfunctional Republican Party that cannot govern. We have to understand how important it is to vote incompetent people out of office, especially Republicans. If you have incompetent Democrats, run somebody better, replace them also. But this is dangerous. And Kelly mentioned, I think it was Kelly who mentioned health care. Donald Trump is saying he will repeal the Affordable Health Care Act if he's reelected. Now, 41 million people have signed up for the Affordable Health Care Act. It's more commonly called Obamacare. It's more popular than ever, okay? And if you want to know the damage that Donald Trump can do, even if he doesn't repeal it, if you go back to 2016 when he was president, in his administration, he cut the amount of funding for marketing the Affordable Health Care Act. Okay, making people aware that they could register for it. They cut the funding by 90%. The amount of time that you had to apply for the Affordable Health Care Act, they cut that amount of time in half. This is just the damage that he can do without legislation going through Congress. All right. And they have been consistently talking about repealing and replacing the Affordable Health Care Act, but they have nothing that they can replace it with that they agree with. Okay, this is dangerous. So we have to understand what's at stake in 2024. This is more about, this is not about Biden versus Trump. This is about all these other policies and the trajectory of this country and the future. And one of the most important things, U.S. Supreme Court and the federal bench, lifetime appointments.
You know what? I think I still feel a little extra petty.
Of course you do.
I do.
Of course you do.
I do. And so somebody posted this on social media, this graphic here. Come on, pull the graphic up. Come on, pull the graphic up. The graphic. Pull the graphic up. Thank you very much. This probably will be the album cover. My digital girls created an AI song that I think y'all gonna love. Just go ahead and bring the panel back, bring all four of us back, and go ahead and play us the name of this song. Kelly, what is it? Bad Built, what is it? Bleach Blonde.
Bleach Blonde.
No, hold on. Y'all ain't doing it right. Ladies and gentlemen, here to present the new hit song. Kelly, what's the new hit song?
Bleach Blonde, Bad Built, Butch Body.
Hit it.
Bad built frame, bad built frame. Bleach blonde Bush, better shut your trap, ain't got no game. Bleach blonde Bush, bad built shame, bad built shame. Whole lot of frontin', whole lot of frontin', all in my lane. Bleach blonde Bush, bleach blonde Bush, bleach blonde Bush, bad built frame, bad built frame. Bleach blonde Bush, bleach blonde Bush, better shut your trap, ain't got no game. Blonde Bush, blonde Bush.
You all right, Kelly?
Yeah.
And you said that was AI?
Yes. Hit it one more time. Run it back.
Bad built frame, bad built frame. Bleach blonde Bush, better shut your trap, ain't got no game. Bleach blonde Bush, bad built shame, bad built shame. Whole lot of frontin', whole lot of frontin', all in my lane. Bleach blonde Bush, bleach blonde Bush, bleach blonde Bush, bad built frame, bad built frame. Bleach blonde Bush, bleach blonde Bush, better shut your trap, ain't got no game. Bleach blonde Bush, bleach blonde Bush.
Oh, that was from Marjorie Taylor Greene right there, Matt.
Is that a cane?
Oh, yeah. One of my followers sent me this about 3 years ago. They sent me, go wide. They sent me a Roland Martin unfiltered. So you see right here is Roland Martin, right? No, go to the three, number 3. So they got Roland Martin right here. Then they put unfiltered over here in gold. And then they got A5A right here as well. And so, when we were playing that video, I meant to get, I wore my athletic pants. I meant to get a belt because they were smacking that ass. They were just smacking that ass of Marjorie Taylor Greene. And so I went ahead and got the cane because they were just like, beep. They were just, yeah. That's what was going on right there.
Now,
I told y'all, listen, I am creating a new segment on Roland Martin Unfiltered. It is going to be called, did Keenan have it ready yet, Kara? Damn, he ain't got it ready yet. Y'all, I'm announcing today, I'm creating a new segment on the show. It's called The Crockett Chronicles. It's called The Crockett Chronicles. So every time Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, they have one of these hearings, we're going to be sure to play the best of the shadiest, pettiest comments from my Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett in this new segment on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. It's called The Crockett Chronicles. Just letting y'all know. Matt, you gonna say something? Go ahead.
I'm really baffled at the fact that AI can make a song that sounds like somebody programmed drums on Ableton themselves. I mean, that sounds like a Dero track. I'm listening to it. I'm hearing ice cream paint job. I'm really baffled that AI is able to do that. You're going to tell me that somebody took it and they, people do this on Instagram, social media. Somebody took it up, put drums under it, No, AI made that song, so we should have a conversation about AI and its capabilities.
No, we did. That was last week's Tech Talk when Isaac Hayes III was on, and we talked about how that's how AI is. Yeah, my man Keenan threw that together, and it turned out. Run it back!
Bad bill frame, bad bill frame. Bleach blonde bush, better shut your trap, ain't got no game. Bleach blonde bush, bad bill shame, bad bill shame. Whole lot of frontin', whole lot of frontin', all in my lane. Bleach blonde bush, bleach blonde bush, bleach blonde bush, bad bill frame, bad bill frame. Bleach blonde bush, better shut your trap, ain't got no game.
There you go. Now that's when Congresswoman Crockett gonna say, "Coma, give me my theme music."
It's funny because one of my IG friends, his name is King Wallonius. He's the creator of BBL Drizzy. He just came out with a Bleach Blonde song as well. So I'm looking.
Hold up. What's his handle? King
Wallonius. He's the one who created King Wallonius.
How the hell is spell Wallonius?
WILONIUS.
Ain't that like that's no regular ass spelling, Kelly?
No, I was trying to think it out. I'm trying to think it through. I can't
King Wallonius. First of all, it's got 2 L's.
It does? Okay.
Yeah, it got 2 L's. Okay.
So Metro Boomin took his song, sampled it, and that's the BBL Drizzy song that everybody's hearing right now.
Right. You said he came out with one of Bleach Blonde?
Yes. My mom just sent it to me.
Boom! Y'all, just pull up the audio of my iPad.
Oh my God.
You all right?
I'm great. I'm great. That was wonderful. That was great. Shout out to King Wallonius.
Yeah, King Wallonius. That's a bop right there.
He's an amazing he's a comedic songwriter, and he his whole page is just full bops like that. Like I said, he did BBL Drizzy. He's done that. He's just like this AI guru when it comes to songs and imaging and all of those things. And I've seen his stand up. He's come out to the DMV area for stand up stuff. And I mean, just incredible talent. And I'm excited that his page has been blowing up since the Drake Kendrick Lamar thing. I hope this takes him to the next level as well, because he deserves. He's really good. He's really good.
Hey, Michael, that sounds like a Motown song right there.
Yeah, it does. I was just looking at the 2022 midterm election results while we were listening to this music, and looking at Marjorie Taylor Greene. She won by her district. I think she got like 61% of the vote, something like that, 65% of the vote. So even I think she's in a pretty red district.
Yeah, she's in a heavily gerrymandered district. Remember, she ran against the brother who was the veteran,
right?
And her opponent this time is another brother. We had him on the show. It's another brother who's running against her. But again, Republicans have the gerrymandered of these districts. But I think the smart play for Democrats is to mock her silly ass at every turn, because she is truly the second dumbest member of Congress behind Lauren Boebert.
And Lauren Boebert, on recount, she won, if I remember correctly, by something like 546 votes.
Yeah, so trust me, she's scared. That's why she's running in a neighboring district, because she was gonna get a behind kick. Matt, real quick, final comment, Matt.
Well, first, I was really impressed by how authentic that horn section was for Motown. So that's what I was listening to. But my final comment on it is we should not allow this. These are lawmakers who have the fates of our lives in their hands with a lot of the bills that they pass. They should not be able to shirk that duty for political points. And that's what we're seeing. And my 4-year-old is showing me his tablet. So that's the end of my comment.
All right. All right. I'm going to go to a quick break. We'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network, the home of the, bad built, bleach blonde, butch body, something like that. Y'all know what it is. Matter of fact, you know what? We're going to play that song again before we go to the break. All right, I'll be back in a moment.
Bad bill frame. Bleach blonde bush, better shut your trap, ain't got no game. Bleach blonde bush, bad bill shame. Whole lot of frontin', all in my lane. Bleach blonde bush, bad bill frame, bleach blonde bush.
I wanted the people of Baltimore to hear it from me. I have done nothing wrong.
But I see that what you are trying to do is destroy this black woman for doing her job.
I have heard your calls for no justice, no peace. However, your peace is sincerely needed as I work to deliver justice on behalf of Freddie Gray.
Maryland was a force to be reckoned with. I was assuming this is all because of Freddie Gray, but it actually is much deeper than that.
Baltimore's top prosecutor, a woman named Marilyn Mosby, was indicted yesterday in the Eastern District of Maryland for perjury. Couldn't help but think about Donald Trump.
This is what you got to deal with when you are a black woman fighting for just causes in America.
Yeah, but just taking on the police, period. She's stepping on their toes.
They want to cross her out of the system so she can't stand up for the preacher. Reached in the pool and grabbed me and pulled me out.
Imagine if this were you. You would want people to stand in your corner.
I lost my car. I lost my job. I lost my marriage. And I almost lost my mind for a little while.
It's just so much right now, Lord. And I'm just saying, why are you putting all of this on me? I'm about to break.
What's up, y'all? Look, Fanbase is more than a platform. It's a movement to empower creators, offering a unique opportunity for everyday people to invest in Black-owned tech, infrastructure, and help shape the future of social media. Investing in technology is essential for creating long-term wealth and influence in the digital age. The Black community must not only consume tech, we must own it.
Discover how equity crowdfunding can serve as a powerful tool for funding Black businesses, allowing entrepreneurs to raise capital directly through their community through the Jobs Act.
I'm curious to know if any of you are aware as to whether or not the FBI is involved at all in determining what's going on in Springfield, Ohio, because as far as I'm concerned, there is domestic terrorism afoot, and it is at the word of the Republican nominee and his running mate. So do we know if anyone is checking into that on the federal level? I'm just curious. Just a yes or no, anybody?
I don't know.
Okay, perfect. Either way, I want to move on, and I want to talk about Mr. Kirshner. I'm just curious, if you were to define what weaponization of the federal government looks like, just in a quick, short definition, what would it be?
Using the Department of Justice to reward your friends and your criminal associates by delivering pardons after they'd been convicted by juries or before their case was even concluded or before their case was even charged, and conversely using the Department of Justice to punish your perceived enemies, order investigations and prosecutions, even if they're not warranted by evidence. I'm sorry, that was not brief.
That's okay. It was accurate. Because that's how I see weaponization as well, and it's something that we saw a lot out of Trump specifically, because all of his friends were going to prison, and he's probably got more friends that are headed to prison soon, and if we are lucky, he will find him a cellmate soon as well. But nevertheless, as we talk about weaponization, because this whole committee feels as if it's projection, I want to go to something that's pretty interesting, but I'm gonna start with Mr. Allen. I wasn't on this committee the first time you were here, so this is the first time we're interacting, but I am caught up to speed, and I have a simple question for you, yes or no. Do you believe that career employees like yourself should have your job taken away even if you've done your job well and followed agency rules? Do you think it's right to be fired just because you have political disagreements with those above you?
No, it's not right to persecute anyone for their political or religious beliefs, especially in an organization where there's supposed to be the free flow of ideas.
Okay, I appreciate your answer and your honesty, and I absolutely agree with you. It is interesting, though, because that's exactly what Trump and my Republican colleagues would do if they won the election. It's spelled out in Project 2025. Trump would strip due process rights available to career civil servants and remove, suspend, or reduce their pay in an all-out effort to oust agency employees for partisan reasons rather than because of issues with merit or performance. And before you say Trump and Project 2025 aren't affiliated, I'd ask unanimous consent to submit into the record Trump's campaign page where he claims on day one I'd reissue 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to fire rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. The only reason democracy is standing strong today is because we had public servants who pledged loyalty to the Constitution and rule of law and not to Donald Trump. Mr. Kirshner, your testimony today demonstrates you're familiar with Project 2025. Is that a fair statement?
Particularly as it pertains to the Department of Justice.
Okay. And you are aware, or maybe you're not, we'll see, on page 547, that Project 2025 states its goal of implementing a top-to-bottom overhaul of DOJ that, quote, must include the FBI, because anything less would, quote, guarantee the failure of the conservative administration's agenda.
That does not make a lot of sense to me.
Okay, but that's in Project 2025.
It is
okay.
on, yes, it is.
All right, just wanted to clarify that. And also this agenda includes, for example, enforcing federal criminal laws against providers and distributors of abortion medication, as well as rescinding policies that hold that sex discrimination includes discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation, transgender identity, among other things. Is that correct?
Yes, Representative, on page 562, they talk about aggressively going after prosecuting, quote, providers and distributors of abortion pills that use the mail. So folks who are, mailing abortion pills to women who need it, that is really not what is endangering our country or inspiring, violent crime.
I absolutely agree. This week, the New York Times reported multiple instances of Trump trying to weaponize the DOJ to retaliate against his political enemies, finding that, quote, Mr. Trump told Mr. McGahn that he wanted to order Mr. Sessions, the Attorney General, to prosecute Mrs. Clinton and Mr. Comey, and if Mr. Sessions refused, he would take matters into his own hands. I know my time is running out, so I just have to ask, Mr. Chairman, given you've convened this hearing, theoretically it's you, given that you've convened this hearing on weaponizing federal agencies, will you commit to publicly condemning Trump for attempting to weaponize the government and condemn Project 2025 for its efforts to do the same?
Gentlelady's time has expired.
All right, we debut the first edition of the Crockett Chronicles. Of course, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett got all the folks talking on social media when she lit up a Marjorie Taylor Greene that late night session. She joins us right now. No, not crazy ass Marjorie Taylor Greene, but Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Boy, it's been quite a busy week for you.
It has.
Are you surprised how what the response has been?
I am. I never could have anticipated we'd have skits and songs of all genres and memes for days on days. But I think it's great. I think that people have been looking for something to unite them against this MAGA bully. And I think that this was the moment.
And you're right. I mean, she's off there trashing people. She's always trying to, front people. As soon as she came to Congress, was just quite disruptive. And so somebody need to clap back on her.
Absolutely. And she, I think, has gotten to the point that she felt like nobody was going to check her. And so, historically, these spats have been more so with the Republicans face to face. Like she had the spat with Boebert. She also has obviously had plenty of spats with her own caucus as she was trying to oust the speaker just the previous week. So she's constantly into it with people, but she's usually not crossed the line and crossed over to actually trying to say something to a Democrat's face, except for obviously the things that she's done to the president during this most recent State of the Union and the State of the Union before that. But I don't know that she's ever met a black woman like me. I can't say very much about her upbringing or anything like that. But the fact that she said what she said and sat back and was like, I'm fine with what I did, I could not let that rest. So if she wasn't going to be forced to apologize or be kicked out, then I was going to have to make the chairman think about what the parameters were going to be going forward and let him know that I got some choice words that I could deliver if I chose to.
And then you have the people who, you should have, it's about decorum, you shouldn't have done that. And look, I get it. I always talk about Michelle Obama says when they go low, we go high. I'm like, nah, you got to go ahead. If they going to hit you in the knees, hit them in the damn shin. And they going to hit you in the ankles, hit them in the bottom of the feet. Because you can't play footsie with these people. They don't care about norms. They don't care about values. And so it's like, you know what? If that's how you want to swing, let's swing.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're absolutely right. And, this obviously is not something that has been done that often, if ever, when it comes to MTG. And so, in that moment, all I was thinking about was how is it that I can claim that I'm going to represent almost 1 million people and fight for them every day and sit here and I won't even fight for myself. And you don't know how these things will hit. You don't know how your district will take it. But I can tell you that I've received plenty of encouraging messages directly from the district. And so, but ultimately you find out really how your district feels about how you've governed when you get to the ballot box. So, ultimately, my primary will take place almost 2 years from now. So I don't even know if they will still be talking about this. But I feel confident that my district is okay with the fact that I, as a black woman serving in a black district, decided to stand up for myself.
Well, I'm a voter in that district, and I'm perfectly fine with it. Let's go to our panel. Rebecca.
Congresswoman, thank you so much for being here today. 2 quick questions. One, what was going through your mind as it was happening in real time. And then my second question, a little bit more serious, is that you are in the seat of the late great Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson. You're finishing up your first term. What do you want your legacy in Congress to be?
Absolutely. Thanks for the questions. So my first thoughts were not as eloquent. I will be honest. They were not. And, you know, when somebody comes at you wrong, you always have something that you're ready to say. So honestly, my first thought was, if you had some lashes, you may still have your husband. That was like my first thing. But I restrained myself and said, I'm going to let the process work. And before I could say, we need to go ahead and take our words down, AOC jumped in. I appreciate my sister. She jumped in almost immediately. And as y'all could tell, AOC was fired up as well. And what y'all didn't know is Ayanna, my big sister, was sitting off camera and she was about ready to handle some folk as well. So I had plenty of good backup for her trying to come at me. And so as AOC and Jamie were dealing with Comer and were dealing with the advice of his parliamentarian, I was of the impression that we won. For me, a win is her not being in committee because we can get work done. Also, a win is her having to apologize, which of course she never wanted to do to a Black woman specifically. So both of those were fine with me. She didn't have to do either one of those though. And that's when I decided, and I looked over at her and I was like, you bleached blonde. Like I had all of this, like, and so I was writing it down and trying to get Comer's attention so that he would call on me so that I could not violate the rules, but show her that I could cut her deeper without ever talking to her. So that was what was going through my mind and how it all played out. As far as my legacy, I want my legacy to be one of fighting for the people. It's what I've always done. From being a public defender to being a civil rights lawyer, I have always pushed back and tried to make sure that I could open doors of opportunity for people that look like me to bust through and do greater things than I could have ever imagined. I talk to young people all the time about the fact that I really want them to take my seat. I want them to go in and be the amazing people that they are in this generation. And so I don't plan to stay for decades. I have no aspirations to do that whatsoever, but instead I make sure that we have tons of interns. We make sure that we're training them up, educating them. And my hope is that I won't be representing this small fraction of a fraction of a fraction of black women that have served in Congress, but instead the numbers start to be more reflective of what the numbers are in this country.
Scott?
Yeah, hey, Congresswoman, A. Scott Bolden. You know, as a lawyer, questions can be more piercing than statements. And while most people say that you called her that, you actually put that in a question to Comer. I didn't miss that as a fellow lawyer, which in my opinion was just brilliant. It's like going in the back door if the judge won't let you go in the front door. So I admire you for that. I want you to talk about how difficult it is. Like, where do you go from here? And how difficult it is to work in Congress, to get things done for your district or for all of us when you really don't have a viable political party on the other side. Democracy needs two strong parties, and you're in Congress and you got to work with people to get stuff done. But the Republicans don't seem to be interested in getting stuff done. They seem to be interested in kind of power and winning and going after the other side. So can you just kind of talk about, one, where you go from here, and two, how do you matriculate in that very difficult environment, notwithstanding the irrelevance of Congresswoman or MTG?
Yeah, so great question. And I'll be honest and tell you that I have absolutely built better coalitions than MTG has probably ever dreamed. So while I'm the minority, just last week, or actually, I think it was the same week. So yeah, so last week, I was able to get a bill out of oversight committee of all committees in a bipartisan way because it was just good legislation. It is still difficult to get good legislation out, but I understand where the middle resides. Right now, one of my best partners is actually my senior senator from Texas. You know, Cornyn approached me and said, I don't want you to have to go and look for a Democrat to carry the bill if you are actually coming up with legislation that is good for Texans. And so he's carrying a number of my bills and has actually been a huge champion of some of my legislation. So, you know, I understand how government works, and I want it to work in any way that it can. Right now, we're in obviously divided government, which means I won't get some of maybe my landmark legislation passed, but I still want to get things done. And there are still a few Republicans that want to get things done. They are becoming lesser and lesser by the day. But I think that I've been somewhat effective. We also were able to get monumental legislation into the FAA Reauthorization Act that really flew under the radar, thank God. But this was funding to make sure that hopefully we can increase the number of African Americans and Hispanics that are entering aviation, which can be very expensive, but can obviously be very lucrative. And so we set up a situation where basically there will be full rides for those attending land grant HBCUs as well as HSIs to go into aviation. In this crazy anti-DEI environment, we were able to get that done because we were working with everybody that mattered. So I do want people to know that we are working. This is just one of those aberrations. But even in the midst of somebody coming at me, I can defend myself. And honestly, I've had Republicans coming up to me. Now, they probably won't go on Fox News and say anything. But, you know, one of the Republicans today was like, I love your lashes. Like, I mean, you know, they're good. Like, they're not mad at me. I've gotten winks and thumbs up from like female Republicans. Like, everyone was waiting on somebody to go in on her.
So what do you say or do, like, when you go to you run into Marjorie, you run into Green on the hall or in the bathroom, other than putting your hands on her? What do you say? What do you think? Or do you just ignore her? I'm very practical in my practice. I mean, it just got to be a difficult circumstance. But, you know, what do you do? Or have you? Have you run into her since that?
Yeah, you're
sorry. That's a compound question. Forgive me.
No, we don't communicate. We never really. And because Democrats sit on one side, Republicans sit on another, we have different doors to enter, whether we're entering the floor or whether we're entering the committee. So you don't necessarily have to interact like that. But today was my first committee hearing back in oversight, and she did not show up. And it's my understanding that she didn't show up to her Homeland Committee either today. So I'm not really sure where she is, but committee was a lot smoother without her. So she, as I'm concerned, I think everybody was happy. So yeah.
All right. Well, you know, she's got something really unique. She seems to have pissed off in a very divided Congress and a very divided political status in America, that she's pissed off Democrats and Republicans. That's got to be a first, in my opinion, given how divided we are as a country.
She has, but nevertheless, I think I was told that she's their 5th highest fundraiser. The people that are higher than her are all in leadership. And so she does this for dollars, nothing else. This is the only reason that she does it. And so it's really disappointing that her behavior is consistently rewarded in the form of money. But when we look at polling, she actually polls the lowest of any Republican. She polls lower than the speaker. She polls lower than everybody. So when you look in a consensus type world, honestly, the majority of people do not like her in this country. But she has a solid group of people that will put their $2 and $3 behind her versus, you know, having a similar group of people that love, say, some of the Democrats and will put their $2 and $3 and $5 behind us.
Yeah, sad but true. But thank you. for being there for all of us.
I understand that you have trademarked bleach, blonde, bad, built, butch body. True?
Yes. So we filed for the trademark. And just to be clear, we did not file in my personal capacity. I filed under the campaign. And that was because this is becoming something that's in demand. And so the idea of people profiting, that's not really what I'm doing. I'm definitely not profiting in Congress. It's a poor existence, to be clear. But, you know, I'm a lawyer. Some people think I just play one on TV, but in real life, I'm a lawyer and I was a business major as well, undergrad. And so with recognizing the demand, for me, this was an opportunity to turn lemons into lemonade and make sure that what she meant for bad, God meant for good, and we could actually use the money based on the demand that people are making on these T-shirts and all the other merch to actually put that towards my reelection, along with me being able to support other candidates to make sure that we take the House.
All right, then. Well, it has been quite an interesting week. And so I saw, last question, out of all the different ones you've seen and heard, your favorite?
I don't know. There's so many good ones. There's so many good ones. One of my colleagues said she was in the DR this weekend and they started playing one of the songs. And then I got a video this morning because they were playing it on the radio this morning. They were playing a couple of versions on the radio this morning in Dallas. So I'm excited about the music. Keep the music coming, especially since it's so educational. But yeah, this gives people something to look forward to, and hopefully people are recognizing that it's not just the presidency, but it's looking all the way down the ballot. It's looking at who's running for U.S. rep and state rep and things like that. And hopefully they will be encouraged to do some research and get out there and vote for great candidates.
Well, it was quite interesting because like the first day, Keenan on my team, he put together one with AI real quick. Y'all had that one ready? Okay, he did a remix. Okay, play his remix.
Bleach blowing, bad built, butch body, shut your trap. Jealous of my style, cause you know I got that snap. Talking loud, online, you ain't built for that scrap. Keep your distance, I ain't dealing with your cap. You think you slick, tryna flex with your fake gold. All that botched up, surgery, you look old. Bleach blonde, she dyed, root showing real bold. Ain't got no shape, but acting tough, man, you cold. Whispers in the crew, you know you can't relate. Bad built, botched up, jealousy's your trait. Can't fake the
Alright, so he put that one together. Did you hear the gospel one?
Yes, I love it. It's so amazing.
Y'all roll that one. Roll that one.
She got a bleach blonde, bad blue butch body. She got a bleach blonde, bad blue butch body. That Marjorie Taylor Greene looked like a lima bean. I forgot she had a bleach blonde, bad built butch body. Representative Jasmine's about that life. She about that, and she looks like she can really fight.
I didn't know.
An amazing politician, ain't got no competition. Ain't worried about a bleach blonde, bad built butch body. Marjorie tried to cause a scene, forgot she had a butch body. Marjorie tried to cause a scene, forgot she had a butch body. Marjorie tried to cause a scene, forgot she had a butch body. Marjorie tried to cause a scene, forgot she had a butch body. Black women with lashes, they won't give you gashes. Black women with lashes, they won't give you gashes. Black women with lashes, they won't give you gashes. Don't come for us unless we sit for you. She got a bleach blonde, bad built butch body. She got a bleach bad built butch body. A bleach blonde, bad built butch body. She got a bleach bad built butch body.
Did one.
Say it again.
Isaac Hayes' son did one.
Oh, I know. It was called the clapbacks. Roll it.
Yes. He did one.
Roll the clapbacks.
She's a bleach blonde, bad built butch body. She's a bleach blonde, bad built butch body. She's a bleach blonde, bad built butch body. And she better not talk about nobody. Marjorie Taylor Greene is built like a shake machine.
She better learn her place, cause she's about to catch a case. Talk about a black woman's lash, she'll definitely whoop your ass. She better get her face right, cause she looks like a pack of Bud Light. Oh, yeah. Built bush body. She's a bleach blonde, bad built bush body. She's a
probably the one. So that's that old school sound. The brother King Wallonius, I gotta admit.
That one. That one is so. That's so good.
Yo, I was flying to Palm Springs for Anthony Anderson's 6th annual Celebrity Golf Classic on Saturday. Let me just say, I probably had that playing at least an hour on the plane. Roll it. I don't have that. How y'all don't have that? That was one of the first ones.
I know.
What is wrong with y'all? I see, Congresswoman, I told the staff, pull all of them. I told them, pull all of them. But see, it's I want all this whining y'all in my ear right now don't mean nothing. But yeah, but guess what? I'm always prepared. Always prepared. So yeah, roll it. Just pull the audio up. How y'all ain't have it ready?
No, this is a good one. The organ get me.
Version.
The country version was really good, but I love the ones where Comer is like a wood now.
Y'all got any one of those in there?
Oh my goodness.
All right, let me hear that one. Let me hear that one. I need to hear that one. First of all, let's see that one too. Go ahead, go.
Bleach blonde, bad built, bleach blonde, bad built, bleach blonde, bad built, bush body.
A what now? Sweet. A what now?
Sweet, the weed makes God.
Bleach blonde, bad built, bleach blonde, bad built, bleach blonde, bad built, bush body.
A what now?
Bleach blonde, bad built, bleach blonde, bad built, bleach blonde, bad built, bush body. I'm just curious. Bad built, bad built, bad built, bad built, bad built, bad built, bush body.
A what now?
Bad built, bad built, bad built, bad built.
Oh my God.
Bad built, bush body, bush body.
Yo, the creativity of people is amazing. This thing has taken off quickly.
Yes. Yeah. I'm appreciative. It's great. I you know what, for the first time in a long time, a lot of people that haven't been engaged in politics, they're engaging. So again, what she meant for bad, God meant for good. So I'm excited that people now are like, wait a minute, now what channel can I watch the hearings on?
Well,
tuning into C-SPAN.
Well, and here's the deal. We carry those hearings as well. And so I've already made it clear to our folk, every time there's one of these hearings, and you look, you only get 5 minutes, right?
Yes.
All right. So every time there's a hearing, we gonna have the full 5 minutes and run it on the show. And I told Carol, I said, because look, I've had an open invitation to every CBC member since I launched 5.5 years ago, and most of them never take it up. We are more than welcome to have a weekly segment called the Crockett Chronicles, talking about whatever you want to talk about. So all you got to do, just have your people tell Carol, hey, this week I can come on Wednesday, this week I can come on Friday. And so that's every single week we can have the Crockett Chronicles to talk about what's popping. And of course, we having fun, joking, but there's also real policy stuff we can talk about. So we're looking forward to making that happen.
Absolutely. I appreciate you.
All right. Guys, hold up. I gotta real quick. Y'all pull the photo up of that fake Delta in Georgia. Congresswoman, did you see this? Did you see this here? This woman right here is a state representative in Georgia. Old girl has been fronting, saying she's a Delta. The Deltas put out a letter. Okay, apparently she ran for re-election. And she was running against a Delta. Can't nobody see that letter, y'all. She was running against a Delta. Well, what happened was the Deltas had to put out a letter stating she was not. They have no records whatsoever to support her being a member. Now, there was a woman she was running against who is a Delta, and they said she was a certified member of Delta Sigma Theta. So now you a Delta, how you feel about a homegirl down in Georgia fronting that she's a Delta?
She clearly knows nothing about Delta, because one thing the Delta does is stand on business. Baby, you was never going to get too far, not in the public limelight with that fraud going on.
Now, she won. She won, but the Deltas have put out a letter saying they can't find no evidence anywhere that homegirl, she literally she literally posted this on Delta's Founders Day. Straight up.
No. But I'm saying there's no way you can be in the public life and Delta not know who you are and be clear whether or not you're a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Delta knows me very well. They know. They got all my records. So I don't even know why she tried to play with Delta. And that's got to be embarrassing, because it's got to make her constituents think, if you would lie about something like this, what else are you lying about?
That was absolutely crazy. So, that was a trip right there. Congresswoman Crockett, I appreciate it. My parents at my house here in Virginia, because my niece graduated, so they kicking it. So I'm sure, because
send them my love.
Because they constituents too, since they living at my house. So they are always down there working the campaign. So I'm sure they quite enjoyed this segment.
I appreciate them.
All right, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
See you later.
I wanted the people of Baltimore to hear it from me. I have done nothing wrong.
But I see that what you are trying to do is destroy this black woman for doing her job.
I've heard your calls for no justice, no peace. However, your peace is sincerely needed as I work to deliver justice on behalf of Freddie Gray.
Maryland was a force to be reckoned with. I was assuming this was all because of Freddie Gray, but it actually is much deeper than that.
Baltimore's top prosecutor, a woman named Marilyn Mosby, was indicted yesterday in the Eastern District of Maryland for perjury. Couldn't help but think about Donald Trump.
This is what you gotta deal with when you are a black woman fighting for just causes in America.
Yeah, but just taking on the police, period. She's stepping on their toes.
They want to cross her out of the system so she can't stand up for the preacher. Reached in the pool and grabbed me and pulled me out.
Imagine if this were you. You would want people to stand in your corner.
I lost my car, I lost my job, I lost my marriage, and I almost lost my mind for a little while.
It is so much right now, Lord, and I'm just saying, why are you putting all of this on me? I'm about to break.
Earlier today, this will be our last story. Today on Capitol Hill, they had another one of those stupid impeachment discussions that hasn't gone anywhere. Democrats are roasting these fools. Woo, but that was nobody roasted them like Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. I just had to play this here, and I can't wait to get the panel's reaction to this. Roll it!
Linsky. Do you know who Elections LLC is? Yeah.
Well, it's not a who.
Okay, well, do you know what it is?
Yes, it's a LLC.
Okay, and is it the LLC that your attorney works for?
I believe so, yes.
You believe so, okay. So at this point in time, I'd ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a document indicating that the law firm representing Tony Bobulinski was paid $10,000 as recently as January of this year by the Save America PAC, which you may recognize as Donald Trump's PAC.
Without objection.
Thank you. Now, so far in this hearing, it has felt like the worst episode of The Apprentice. I'm sure you're familiar with that show. It seems like my colleagues and maybe you and some others are trying to become the next vice president of the United States of America. You're auditioning or something like that because, Mr. Bobulinski, I know that you take exception to the fact that your credibility has been called into question over and over. But when someone comes to testify under oath, whether it's before this committee, behind closed doors, or in person, then we have to evaluate someone's credibility. And sir, I definitely have always had issues with your credibility, as I know that you are very well aware of. So let me remind you of what happened behind closed doors.
Well, you should ask O'Connor about my credibility.
I haven't asked you a question. Okay?
You are?
When I haven't. So when I ask you a question, that's when you answer. Otherwise, I'm talking. So,
excuse me?
With my time, because it's my time, I want to be clear that when we were behind closed doors, you called a number of people liars. You called the Wall Street Journal liars. You called Cassidy Hutchinson a liar. You called the FBI a liar. You called Rob Walker a liar. You called James Gilliar a liar. You called Hunter Biden a liar. You called Jim Biden a liar. And just today, you added to your list, you called my colleague, Congressman Mr. Goldman, a liar as well. It seems like, according to you, the only person that's telling the truth is you and everyone else is lying. But I want to move on to something else.
Is that a question?
It's not a question.
Okay.
You'll know when I ask you a question, I promise.
Thank you.
So the other thing that I want to talk about is the fact that my colleague from the other side of the aisle talked about the company that we keep. And she wanted to go through a list of people that she felt like were bad company because right now the majority has been relying upon the testimony of someone who's currently sitting in federal prison. And we know that your company is the company of somebody who's been found liable of fraud, as well as defamation, as well as sexual assault, and for whatever reason can't pay his bills at this point in time. But I'm going to ask Mr. Parnas, so this is a question to him. Are you aware if Trump had any associates that have been found guilty of anything?
Yes, lots of them.
Lots of them.
Me included.
You included. Okay, so when you were called here to testify, you weren't called here to testify for any other reason than to tell the truth. Is that correct?
Yes, Congresswoman.
Now, we started this whole sham off because of the 1023. And that was debunked by you, was it not?
Yes, Congresswoman.
Way before we started this impeachment inquiry. And you mentioned a number of times this guy by the name of Rudy Giuliani.
Yes.
Now, everybody is so stressed about the fact that Hunter ain't here today. But, Hunter came and testified behind closed doors for over 6 hours. And every single one of them, they weren't limited to 5 minutes. They could ask whatever they wanted to. And there's a full transcript of his testimony. So I don't know what else they wanted to do besides the fact that they wanted to put on a show. But let me tell you something. This whole thing is based upon something that Giuliani came up with.
Yes.
And we tried to subpoena him that's what I remember. If anybody else remember, we asked, we said, hey, we should subpoena Giuliani. But kind of like when we were trying to get his cell phone, they shut it down, right? Like they don't want the facts. But you would agree with me that considering the fact that you were working under Rudy Giuliani at the time that you went over to Ukraine, that he has maybe some valuable information that he could offer this committee as to whether or not there's anything that we should be investigating in the first place.
Absolutely, Congresswoman. I wish that this committee would subpoena Rudy Giuliani, put him under oath alongside me to get to the bottom of the truth of what actually happened in Ukraine and to the manipulation that Trump and Giuliani and the team went to do.
I agree with you, but somehow it doesn't look like we're going to get there, and I thank you for your time.
Oh, another BS hearing, Scott. And she was just like on his ass. Like, is that a question? Yo, you know when I ask your ass a question.
She's a sharp legislator, sharp lawyer, I think, who just happens to be a black woman. And I say it like that because I don't like undermining her excellence by saying she's a strong black woman. No, she's a strong, bright, capable legislator who happens to be black. That's my new thing. And I'll be honest with you, I've seen her in action a few times on the Hill at these hearings, and she's young, and she's fearless, and she's a lion or a lioness, and I got to tell you, she's going to be a weapon.
And she's my congresswoman
in the future. Is she really? She's your congresswoman too? I thought you lived in Virginia.
Yes. No. Hold up. No. Not to. Let me explain something to you. No. Let me explain. See again, though. See you cappers. See you uninformed cappers.
Is that what you say?
You uninformed cappers. Let me listen. You uninformed capper. Listen to me. Let me explain something to you. Texas has a homestead law. So my home there is my homestead. I am still registered. See right there. See what happened? You ain't informed because you cappers have limited knowledge of America. Rebecca, what you saw there was you saw her checking him, Rebecca, and he tried to get a little froggy. She's like, all right, don't jump.
I would say her being a strong black woman, her being a black woman is a golden crown. So I'll always lead with she is a black woman who is an excellent legislator on your behalf and other Texans in the Dallas area.
All right, fair enough.
I think it's fantastic. I really like seeing how she's evolving on the national scale. And when people talk about what is the future specifically of the Democratic Party, we are looking in real time at the future of the Democratic Party. One thing that I appreciate about Congresswoman Crockett is that even though she is a part of the Democratic Party and the apparatus, she also leads with black values. And I think that's important. Don't just be elected to Congress as a black woman, as a black legislator, but also make sure that you are leading with black values that brings the entire community along. So I appreciate watching her in action.
Todd?
It was reminiscent of what I've seen my mama do in the house many a time. Let me assure you that if you dare come the wrong way, mama has a can of whoop ass right here by the side. And she's going to keep her curls in place. She's not going to lose her dignity. But when it's all said and done, if you decide you want to talk back to me, you will know when I ask you a question when I'm done talking. That is classic out of the playbook of black excellence called Mama. Kudos to Congresswoman Crockett. And I like the fact that she got Lev to say, I want Rudy to come sit next to me, too. At the end of the day, Mama Wit will ruin all of your hustle and make everybody look like blithering idiots. And not one person that I heard from that clip came back.
Hey, Todd, the only thing she left out was
absolutely. So
bring a switch with you.
That part.
Bring that switch.
Well, we only reserve that for unruly cappers. All right. Joining us right now is Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Texas. Glad to have you on the show. Things got a little funky. Talking about bring the funk on Capitol Hill. So you, Congresswoman Summer Lee, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, you got these Republicans who are acting a fool, talking about, how oppressed they are as white men. And the things have just been so rough, Congresswoman. They're having a difficult time in this world because the oppression that they're facing. And then you got these commentators out there saying, see, right there. Congresswoman Crockett, she's the problem. That's the problem with these Democrats. They keep using this woke language, and this is why they're going to keep losing.
Yeah. So, interestingly enough, I was watching commentary from the New Zealand Parliament, and there was a line that really caught me as they're having kind of this struggle as it relates to Indigenous people. And the line was, when you are accustomed to privilege, to then have to deal with equality makes you feel as if you are oppressed. And that line hit me so deep because that's exactly what it is. These are people that have enjoyed privilege their entire lives, whether they want to recognize it or not. And for literally everyone, because I kept saying, where's Byron? Where is Byron? Is Byron about to jump in this? Because I want to see what Byron has to say, because Byron served on the committee as well. But for some reason, Byron wasn't around to debate this particular bill being marked up. And the author of it, Representative Cloud out of Texas, was complaining that right now they are being oppressed. And then there was an issue with Higgins out of Louisiana, where he was arguing that he had been oppressed because Ayanna Pressley asked him to stop misusing the legacy of Martin Luther King and basically honor the wishes of Martin Luther King's family. And he said, see, y'all are trying to oppress me. You're trying to take away my First Amendment right. And it was just frustrating because they consistently use this language and they really don't understand what oppression is, or they want to pretend like they don't understand. And that's why I needed to make sure I reminded them of what Google has defined oppression as. And I'm sure any other reasonable dictionary defines oppression in a similar way. And they are not being oppressed. They are whining little men.
You mentioned New Zealand, and of course, Parliament was temporarily shut down. This is what after Maori lawmakers performed a haka, a traditional dance demonstrating the community's anger over you talking about the treatment of indigenous people in that particular bill. Pull the audio up, y'all, real quick. Come on. Come on, I wish y'all break out in the haka on the floor of the House.
I don't necessarily see that happening, but there is this movement of the far right that we're experiencing right now where it's all about whitewashing. It's all about deleting. In fact, again, in that same scenario in New Zealand, they talked about the colonization. And one of the things that I wanted to make clear is that oppression looks like what my ancestors have endured, and they have nothing to reflect upon as it relates to their ancestors being oppressed in any way. If anything, they were the ones that were inflicting the oppression. At least their ancestors were. And that was why I wanted to remind them of that. But that's also why it's so dangerous that they want to delete Black history from our history books. Because if you don't know your history, then you're doomed to repeat it. And when you see the likes of, say, a Byron Donalds out there who wants to glorify things such as Jim Crow, it is important that they recognize that there are those Black folk like me, like Rep. Ayanna Pressley, like Rep. Summer Lee, that will not allow them to delete us and delete our pain out of history and then decide to move forward and inflict more pain.
This was a study done from researchers at Tufts University School of Arts and Sciences and Harvard Business School, where we're at a point now where whites believe that they are the victims of racism more often than Blacks. I talked about this in my book, White Fear, how the browning of America is making white folks lose their minds. I said in this book that we are living, I've been giving these speeches since 2009. And I was saying then, so the last 15 years I've been saying, we are living in this age of white minority resistance. We're living in this age where white Americans feel as if they are being discriminated against, they're being targeted, they're losing opportunities. So you got this DEI thing, you got all this sort of stuff like that. And they have created this hysteria that, oh my God, that their world is crumbling down. And then of course, then you got these Democrats we're spending too much time on identity politics. We're leaving these things behind. So you got Bernie Sanders, you got Chris Murphy, all these people. And what kills me is they act as if whiteness is not an identity. They act as if that's not real. And I sit here and so they're like, well, we need to get away from these things. And it's like, okay, and run to what? Because the reality is Donald Trump absolutely pressed the buttons of white identity. You look at the targeting of white men and males. Maleness is identity politics. And these white male Democrats, I'm like, I don't know what world they're living in where they can't see this, because for them, anything other than white is identity politics. But anything with them, oh, no, that's just politics.
Exactly. No, that's exactly right. And it is important that we continue to make the record clear on who it is that's bringing this up. They continue to try to say it's the Democrats. We're not bringing this stuff up. Like, this was not a Democratic bill. This was a Republican bill that was being marked up. And I have every right to make sure that I challenge any bill that comes into my committee or any bill that comes on the floor. This wasn't us and something we initiated, but it is something that I felt very strongly about responding to and finishing, because it's just a bunch of games. And for those that are cowering and deciding that they are okay with towing the Republican line to where they are going to whitewash us, I have news for you. If you are a Democrat, it has been people of color that have held you down in your seat. That is for sure. Every single Democratic seat that you look at, 9 times out of 10, there is a person of color demographic that is holding that district down and making sure that it's Democratic. So, when you're out there and you're saying that you're going to represent your constituency, it's not just the people that look like you. It's your entire constituency. And I try to do that every day that I'm in the House. But the reality is that just seeking equity should not be a problem in the land of the free and the land of opportunity. Acknowledging that there were wrongs that were done to people like me, to the extent that, yes, I am sitting in Congress. And so, yes, I have made it further than I could say the average Black woman, specifically when it comes to politics, knowing that I'm only the 55th Black woman to ever swear into Congress. But that doesn't mean that there aren't obstacles that exist because of the kind of built-in systemic issues that we have. And you can't start to fix systems if you decide that you're going to ignore that there's a problem. If there's no problem, there's nothing to be fixed. So the fact that they are trying to roll back the hands of time, and they said that this was all because they wanted to make sure that the most qualified people are working in our federal government. And I applaud my coworkers, especially Melanie Stansbury, who made a very good point of pointing out that Donald Trump is definitely not concerned about qualifications. When we look at the people that are being put into position, and I even made the point yesterday, and I said, I can't say that I agree with Senator Scott on anything. I can't say that I agree with Byron Donalds on anything, but I can tell you this. Those two black men are more qualified to serve in some capacity in the Trump administration than the random people that Trump has decided to empower. But one thing is different about them, and is that they're black. And that is what diversity, equity, and inclusion seeks to get rid of, is this idea that if it's white, then it's always right. But to absolutely say, we will at least give a look to somebody who is different. And what they failed to really talk about in that hearing is that diversity is defined the way in that particular bill in such a way that veterans are diverse, in such a way that it's including your sexual orientation, it's including your sex, it's including all these things, but it's not just race. It goes down to your religious background. It's talking about diversity as a whole. And they didn't want to talk about that. So there actually potentially will be a negative impact specifically on our veterans, because a lot of our agencies look at your service as a veteran, and they look at that, and that helps you out when it comes time to earn a position in the federal government. And now they don't even want to do that. And these are people that risk their lives to make sure that we can maintain freedom in this country.
Does it frustrate you when these DEI debates and discussions are being held and white women are silent? Because the fact that the numbers don't lie.
They benefit them.
White women are the greatest beneficiary of affirmative action, of DEI, of diversity than anybody in America. Now, white women. Yeah. When you look at contracts, they say MWBE. If you are a black woman, you go in the black category. If you are Latina, you go in the Latino category. That W should be WW, white women. They are silent. And these Republican white women, these Democratic white women, these independent white women, and they sitting here the ones making all the money from DEI, the corporate jobs, the CEOs, they ain't saying nothing. And that's I keep saying that, they got to be called out. You got to be say, hey, Representative so-and-so, you going to get in this? Hey, Representative so-and-so, you know white women who have city, county, state, federal contracts. That's DEI. Why y'all silent?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I didn't have enough time, but that was one of the points that I was going to make, is that white women are the greatest beneficiaries of DEI. And so when you're talking about DEI hires, they always try to use it as a slur against black folk, to be perfectly honest. But the reality is that DEI is a lot deeper than that. That's why I went into all the categories that are classified as diverse. But white women, again, we're not engaged in this debate. This debate, everything that I can remember, and I haven't played it back, it was nothing but the white men on the Republican side that were arguing for this. Now, they all voted for it, for sure, but they did not get engaged in the debate whatsoever on their side of the aisle. Everyone of all backgrounds was engaged in this fight as it relates to the Democrats. I really wish we would focus on the things that could actually bring us together in this country, and the things that would actually solve some of the issues that we really need. Unfortunately, I don't know if the American people just weren't aware or just didn't care, to the extent that we now ended up with a Trump trifecta, where we will end up with more of this in attempt to delete and misuse and water down the legacy of Martin Luther King, and use his words as reasoning and rationale for absolutely eviscerating his legacy. That's what we're dealing with right now, is a bunch of folk that were supported by white supremacists that have a white supremacist agenda, whether we're talking about the actions that they will bring forth in Project 2025 that we constantly try to warn people about, that people said, well, he said he ain't got nothing to do with that. As of now, I think at least 2 of his nominees were authors of Project 2025. So, I don't know why people ignored us or didn't want to believe us or what the case was, but it's time to buckle up.
So I'd love to get your perspective on this here, because this has sort of been getting on my damn nerves. Ever since the election, you've got your fellow Democrats. Everybody's weighing in on why Vice President Kamala Harris lost and so things like that. So this is journalist Matt Iglesias. He goes, because he was asked, somebody said, just once, I would love people who say these things to be specific about what exactly would mean to, quote, abandon identity politics. He goes, one salient example of identity politics that hurt Democrats recently was the decision in 2020 to make Kamala Harris the VP nominee, despite her poor electoral track record and unimpressive performance on the campaign trail, because Biden needed to pick a black woman. Now, I'm gonna show you this second tweet. This is Chris Murphy of Connecticut. He goes, of the 20 highest median income states, Democrats won 18 of them. Of the 20 lowest medium income states, Democrats won 3. Yes, race and gender play a big role in politics, but the hard truth is Democrats clearly aren't listening to the people we say we fight for. So I want to go back to the first one. That is what Matt Iglesias had to say. Here's what I find to be very interesting, Congresswoman, since Matt desires a salient example of identity politics. In 2008, there was a guy who ran for president. His name was Senator Barack Obama. In 2008, there was a guy who ran for president. His name was Senator Joe Biden. This is the same Senator Joe Biden who ran twice previously for president and failed miserably. He had, quote, go back to the tweet, he had a poor electoral track record. He was unimpressed. He did an unimpressive performance on the campaign trail. But in 2008, Obama secured the nomination. And do you know what all the talk was in D.C.? Obama's going to need to pick a white man who can talk to those Rust Belt white people. And so he needs to pick somebody who has serious foreign policy experience. So who does he pick? He picked old Joe, a white man. What's interesting is that Matt Iglesias asks if Joe Biden was not unimpressive in running for president. Mm-hmm. Sure, he was reelected as a senator, Vice President Kamala Harris, but she was elected as a senator from California. But people actually said Obama needed to pick a white man. He picked a white man. But Matt, it's amazing how Matt and other Democrats act as if his white male identity politics, that didn't exist, that it was identity politics. And then Chris Murphy talks about these states, these low states, they're red states. Democrats, please show. Democrats passed the Affordable Care Act. Who has that helped more? Broke people in red states. Who has benefited more? White men in red states because of health care. When you look at the economic policies, that's helped those people in the red states. So I'm trying to understand, maybe you can help me, whether it's Murphy or Bernie Sanders and others, explain to me how we have to do better to working class people. Show me where the policies aren't helping them. They're not voting because of the policies. They're voting because of culture.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, when you ask people, tell me exactly which economic policy Trump proposed that most impresses you, they can't answer that question. And like I know, that I traveled the entire country. And so this wasn't about this. And I kept telling people, I remember the last church that I visited in Atlanta, Georgia, And I said, this is going to be a vibes election, because if you want policy, she's got it. If you want policy from him, he's got concepts of policies, or he's got Project 2025, but he doesn't have the policies. And the interesting point that you just made is that in those states where they are thriving economically, they are democratically run. So, like, yes, Louisiana is constantly having a problem. Mississippi, Alabama, and Republicans run everything. And they are the ones that are broke. They are the ones that are lacking in healthcare. And honestly, these blue states that people complain about are the ones that are carrying them on their back. So, listen, for everybody that wants to talk about states' rights, I thought that it was an interesting move that the governor in California decided to make, where he said, I'm going to call a special session. We going to keep our coins here, because guess what? California got a lot of money. California contributes to take care of these other states that ain't got no people, and consistently put people in based upon, oh, you know what? Well, we are the party of religion. No, y'all not. Have you seen the top of your ticket? Have you seen his nominees? I mean, he's got at least 3 people that he nominated that have sexual assault allegations in some way around them, including his own sexual misconduct situation. So no, don't preach to me about religion. And as I try to tell people all the time, if you religion, go to church, but don't try to find it in your politician, because that's not our job. And this is coming from somebody that is the child of a preacher. I will tell you that if I had to assess anything, it is our communication. People don't know what we're doing, number one. So, it's kind of like the fact that people felt as if Trump cared about them when it came down to the stimulus checks. They thought that that was Trump. That was a failure of communication on our part. The fact that people don't truly understand who has the power of the person, how these things work, that is a problem that we have on education. So we've got to do better, and we can't just come out at election time and try to educate people. We've got to consistently educate them. We've got to consistently call them out immediately when things happen. And we also have to say, when it is a culture war, let me redirect you, because they decided that they were going to distract you, and make sure that you're pointing that out. But listen, here's the deal. I consistently heard on the trail, well, he's a businessman and he's strong. Those are the 2 things people would say. They would tell us Democrats are weak, and they felt like he was strong and that he was going to fix whatever pain they were feeling economically because he's rich. He's a businessman. Well, this is a brand that he's been building way before he ever ran for the presidency. And so it is hard to overcome that, because he had a solid brand that people bought into, and they also believe that he's authentic. All the gaffes and nonsense that he was making, they were like, oh, at least we know what we're getting with him. He's real. They felt as if they did not know the vice president, because even though she had been elected and had a great track record, she only had 107 days to brand herself outside of being Joe's vice president. And so people don't understand how difficult it is to kind of overcome some of that. I did hope that with everything that he was doing, that people would say, and with him being very clear about where he was with Roe and that kind of stuff, that people would say, you know what, I got to get out and I got to vote against him. But a lot of people decided to stay at home. And it's unfortunate, because we all are about to feel the effects of that.
Absolutely. You ran for the Democratic Policy and Communications Committee, lost to Congresswoman Debbie Dingell. That to me is a part of this. Communication is critically important. You're absolutely right. I said for 3 years on this, all 4 years, that the administration was doing a horrible communicating policy. They were passing things, not talking about it. Not only that, amazing work happening when it comes to criminal justice reform in the Department of Justice. I said to Karine Jean-Pierre directly, to the chief of staff of Biden, I said, how do y'all never even bring this stuff up from the White House podium? And so it was just crazy. And I really do hope that the House Democratic Caucus listens to you, and again, I get this is nothing. I got great respect for Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, but here's the reality: I've never been contacted by her office. Never. My whole deal is, if you're trying to communicate, stop only talking to MSNBC. You got to be everywhere. You got to be on cable news. You got to be on digital shows. You got to be on podcasts. You have to be in a constant messaging mode. And I said to the campaign, I said January to July should be education, information, education stage, enlightenment stage, informative stage, because folk don't know what you did. And you can't wait to the last minute and think a 30-second commercial actually going to do it. Real quick, questions from panel. I need short questions from each panelist. Kelly, you go first.
Sure. So we can talk about policy all day, right? And I've seen you on panels. I saw you at CBC. I saw you at Urban League and the like. And I absolutely adore you. Like, I watch all your clips and all those things. So this is my favorite.
Question, Kelly.
For a second.
I got to get to that question, Kelly.
I know. Real quick. As far as even with Roland's shirt, it said, I already did my job, get somebody else to do it. That kind of vein of thinking. As a Black woman in this political space, how are you encouraging yourself to keep going? And what do you recommend for Black women such as myself who, frankly, we're tired? I feel like we did our job. What else you got for us? Get somebody else to do it. How do you encourage that line of thinking as well?
Yeah, so, Roland started this off by talking about the fact that I did run for DPCC chair. And this was really to stretch my caucus because the times are different. A lot of my colleagues said, they had committed to Debbie 2 months ago. 2 months ago, as I explained in my speech, because I took all the time to really talk about what I was doing, I was actually traversing the country and trying to do everything that I could to make sure I could save democracy. I had raised over $4 million for this caucus. The raised goal as freshman leadership representative was $500,000, so I raised 8 times as much money as required. I made sure I gave out close to $400,000 or more to frontliners or red to bluers, either directly for myself or I raised for them, and I gave the caucus approximately $200,000 myself. So I was not sleeping. I was working. I was not seeking a position. And I think that we do get into this rut sometimes, specifically within kind of the party structure, where it's like, well, let's just kind of keep doing what we've been doing versus kind of challenging ourselves to kind of think a little differently. I also did not know, going more so to your point, how much I really was willing to do. I needed to take some time after the election and reflect. And the vice president called me about 2 or 3 days after the election. And she did what she always does. As difficult as it was for me to get out of bed, she was the one that reminded me of why I do this work. I don't do this work for me. I do it for the people that I serve. And so while I think that it is important that Black women take our rest, we rejuvenate, and we decide how we want to move forward, I think that at the end of the day, we have been so loyal because we know that the stakes are just too high. We know that we want better for our families, and this is what it looks like. It looks like us doing the heavy lifting. But I definitely believe that we've got to take our rest. But when I look for inspiration, I think about the college girls that were texting me, DMing me, saying how much they look up to me, the itty bitty girls that for whatever reason know my name and show up in the Capitol. And I think it's never been about me. It's been about the future generations and really wanting more for them. But it's important that we get our rest and we decide how we want to move going forward. And I think it is going to be important that we harness our power collectively and make demands and say, if you want us to work for you, these are the things that we're going to need in return. because we will have to have some assurances before we go out and break our backs again.
Matt?
Yeah, so Congresswoman, you're incredible. It's amazing to see the work you've done. My question for you is, what is the most pressing legislative issue for you at the start of the new Congress? What are you, hitting the ground running on legislatively?
If I'm being real with you, I don't anticipate we're going to have too many legislative wins coming out of a Trump trifecta. I mean, we know that this has been the most unproductive Congress in the history of the Congress, and they only had one lever of control. It looks like the majority that the Republicans will have in the upcoming Congress is going to be even slimmer. So we're really going to be on defense. The things that we really need to get done are things such as the Farm Bill, because we're now 2 years behind. But I don't anticipate anything good for us. So at least I know SNAP benefits are safe so long as a Farm Bill has not gone through. But we definitely need to make sure that we're supporting our farmers so that they can hold on to their farms, so that we are not importing all of our food. That is a really big issue for me, considering that we have so many in this country that are already food insecure. Other than that, we're going to have, a few of our yearly must pass things. I am concerned about whether or not the government will shut down, because we know the last time that the government shut down, it was when Trump had the presidency. That will be devastating for us if he does shut us down. So for the most part, it's just a matter of playing defense. Obviously, if we were looking at Democrats being in control, repro would be at the top of the list. Voting rights would be at the top of the list. Criminal justice reform would be at the top of the list. I am hoping that in the lame duck, there is a letter that we're about to send to the president requesting that anyone who is currently incarcerated under the 18-to-1 disparity as it relates to crack cocaine, hoping that the president will commute those sentences so that those that are still sitting there under those disparities, that they could be recalculated to the 1-to-1. That is something that this AG, as it relates to his prosecutions, it was always 1-for-1. So we're hoping that we can do that and get some folk out of prison that have been sitting way too long, and reduce the sentences of others. We know the numbers. We worked with the Sentencing Commission to get the numbers. We know how many how many people would actually come home. So we are about to push it out, and we hope to get the support of the president. I did have an opportunity to sit down with the Attorney General sometime before the election to talk about this being something that I really wanted to push for in the lame duck. So that's really kind of like my one big Hail Mary that I'm trying to make sure we can throw. But that's obviously before January. Come January, it's just going to be defense.
Michael.
Representative Jasmine Crockett, could you please explain briefly what the Dismantle DEI Bill of 2024 is? Because according to USA Today, if it became law, it would effectively close all federal DEI offices and eliminate federal DEI programs. We know that's part of Project 2025. Also, how are these white men on the committee defining the term woke? I hear them use the term woke, but they never define it. Thank you. Yeah. And great job in the committee educating them.
Thank you. They definitely don't have a definition of woke. As far as I'm concerned, if it's the opposite of what they want, then they consider it woke. As it relates to the bill, you're absolutely right. So when we start to talk about programs within various schools, whether it's, I was looking at a portion of the bill that talked about kind of how they're encouraging in the healthcare space there to be more diversity. And we obviously already are in a great shortage as it relates to healthcare because of COVID-19. It would remove all funding that would help those that are historically disadvantaged from being able to get funds that would help them to potentially, be able to pursue their education. There was an amendment that specifically was put in by Rep. Presley that was specifically put in to make sure that HBCUs would not be defunded under this. Oddly enough, it did pass unanimously. So that was thrown in there because theoretically that could happen. Also, there's a provision that prevents someone who's been in any of these offices from transferring to another office. So if you ever worked in a diversity, equity, and inclusion office, then you would be prevented from transferring to another governmental kind of agency. Usually, if something gets shut down, then you have protections that allow you to go and transfer somewhere else. But basically, any funding that in any way is attempting to increase diversity in the federal government, it would be gone, as well as any positions, as well as the data showing us, this is how many, I want to say it was the FBI, how they now have to report the encounters, or at least keep track of the encounters and things like that. It will get rid of all of that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, then. Well, Congresswoman Crockett, listen, Thanksgiving is coming up. Get some rest. Enjoy the fam. And then, of course, got Christmas happening December. There's work that still can be done. And you're right, come January 20th, we are going to be in a state of war, battling folks who want to dismantle everything. And what I keep telling people, look, focus on that, build locally, and then also focus on 2026, because you can stop that nonsense in 2026 by voting the right way. So get rest, but also we got to stay focused and get to work. Absolutely. Good to see you. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Hi, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Fanbase is a free to download, free to use, next generation social media platform that allows anyone to have followers and subscribers on the same page. Fanbase was built through investment dollars from equity crowdfunding from the Jobs Act. People just like you help build Fanbase, and we're looking for more people to help build Fanbase. We are currently raising $17 million in a Regulation 8 crowdfund on Start Engine. We've already crossed $2.1 million, but we're looking to raise more capital from people just like you that deserve the opportunity to invest in early stage startups without having to be accredited investors. So right now, I'd like you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase right now, today. And then use Fanbase to connect with friends, grow your audience, and be you without limits. Hi, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Fanbase is a free to download, free to use, next generation social media platform that allows anyone to have followers and subscribers on the same page. Fanbase was built through investment dollars from equity crowdfunding from the Jobs Act. People just like you help build Fanbase, and we're looking for more people to help build Fanbase. We are currently raising $17 million in a Regulation 8 crowdfund on Start Engine. We've already crossed $2.1 million, but we're looking to raise more capital from people just like you that deserve the opportunity to invest in early stage startups without having to be accredited investors. So right now, I'd like you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase right now, today. And then use Fanbase to connect with friends, grow your audience, and be you without limits.
I'm here in Dallas County, here at Fisher West Baptist Church, and earlier today, I actually went to a variety of polling locations here with Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. She was also with Dee in the mornings as they travel around talking to various people. And so I had a chance to catch up with her. They started at Lancaster High School with the students who did a stroll to the polls. And I caught up with her here at Friendship West. We talked about this election. Stops in Dallas County. It's been great turnout all day.
Yes, it has been. I'm really excited. We know that Texas 30 is fired up. In fact, Texas 30 has the second highest voter turnout district in the state, and I'm coming for that #1 spot. So I am so excited to see that my constituents are showing up on day one and they are willing to stand in line, get chairs, or do whatever it takes, because this election matters just that much.
Folks, they've been having you all over the place. You've been living on planes.
Yes.
Let's talk about what you've been seeing and hearing across the country.
Yeah, it's been really positive, but for me, I tell them to send me into the areas in which they can't send other people into. So I just had a situation in Vegas where 2 young men showed up in MAGA hats and tried to, come at me. But listen, we know where the policy lies, and we know where the lies lie. And so I was able to do my good black job and make sure I explained the difference between a Harris-Walz administration and a Trump-Vance administration. Overall, though, I feel like the momentum is on our side. We just need to keep pushing, and we need to keep the focus on the real issues. And the real issues look like the fact that women in this country have become second-rate citizens in specific states. And if the Republicans have their way, then this Trump Supreme Court, and if Trump somehow gets into the White House, then this will be across the entire country. So don't think that just because you're in New York or California or somewhere where they have actually decided to recognize that we should have rights over our bodily autonomy, that you are safe. That is what's on the line. So make sure that you get out and vote. And honestly, we need somebody. Everybody's talking about economics. My question is, where is his economic plan? All I've heard, I ain't even really heard concepts of a plan when it comes to the economics of it. But we know that Vice President Harris is looking to make sure that that black wealth gap is actually starting to continue to shutter, because we know under this administration it's actually been decreasing. But we know with the policies that they're trying to put in place, continuing those Trump tax cuts, that's only going to put us into a worse situation. So make sure you get out and vote. Whatever your issue is, just Google Project 2025 and your issue. And if you like what it says, then vote for the orange one. But if you don't like what it says, then you know that Harris-Walz is the ticket for you.
And I gotta ask you, it has to be to tick you off as a female politician to see a presidential candidate stand on stage and talk about a pro-golfer's genitalia and national media act like it's no big deal. I mean, if a woman candidate did that, if Vice President Kamala Harris did that, these folks would be losing their minds. It goes to show you how they have just normalized crazy.
Yeah, I don't even know what to characterize it as. I will say that it is clear that somebody is enjoying a privilege that the other candidate is not. This person said years ago that he could go and kill somebody and avoid prosecution, and now we have his Supreme Court that basically said, yes, I will go ahead and give you immunity to break the law and do whatever you want to do. Listen, this is the party of lawlessness. They look at our black skin and they think that it existing in and of itself is breaking the law when it's not. And so they have decided to criminalize our blackness. They have decided to criminalize our diversity and decide to go after diversity, equity, and inclusion and things like that. But the real crime here is allowing a man who's not even allowed to operate a business in the state of New York to have the audacity and a shot at operating the largest and best country in the world. It does not make sense. That we know that they continue to move the bar and raise the bar when it comes to my vice president. But let me tell you something, she always rises to the occasion. She even decided that she would go into the belly of the beast and go on Fox News, and then went in and went off on the guy that was interviewing her. So let me tell you, there's only one person that is strong in this race, because as you started off this question, being strong has nothing to do with genitalia. It has everything to do with having character and the ability to lead. And there is only one person in this race, and it just happens to be a woman who has the character that we need to lead us on day one.
And I'm about to get one of these shirts to rock on the show.
That's right.
We're
gonna get you one before you leave.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to do this here.
I didn't even realize he rolled up, y'all. My petty pastor here, y'all.
You said your petty pastor?
My petty pastor.
Hold on, this is Bishop Roland Martin. Bishop Roland Martin preached at your church yesterday. He preached at your church yesterday. Acted like
still in North Carolina.
Like he need another job. You doing good with this
I'm good. I'm good.
This is the only job.
I told you I'm bootleg.
But Doc, I thank God for this, the courage of this sister right here, because in too many instances, our Democrats have not had a spine to talk back and clap back. This is Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett don't mind telling it like it is. She knows the rules, because the metaphor of that infamous and famous clapback to old girl in Georgia was the fact that she was basically saying, okay, so you're gonna talk bad about me. Let me survey the rules, because I do my homework, which is what black women do. I do my homework, and then in a real slick Delta diva fashion, clap back on her, and you ain't heard a word from that woman since. Why? Because that's really what it means. For me, Jasmine Crockett showed us that if we have the spine to clap back at injustice, clap back at racism, white supremacy, toxic masculinity. I'm clapping back at a clown who got hit too many times in the head, and so he wears a shirt that disparages a black woman. His mama's a black woman and had the nerve to wear a shirt like that in support of someone who does not mind bragging about grabbing women by their private parts. And you got the nerve to wear a shirt like that? I'm clapping back at you because you've had too many hits to the head playing football, and maybe you need to go ahead and get yourself some real therapy and get yourself some help to talk about a black woman like that. And so my thing is, this election is our time rolling to clap back against injustice and clap back against the last 10 years of political violence and lying from a pathological liar. And we clapping back not only at Agent Orange, but up and down the ballot, because Agent Orange is trying to infect people up and down the ballot. And I don't want Kamala Harris to, on January 20th, when she holds up her hand and Ketanji Jackson administers the oath of office on the King holiday. Listen, that's Ketanji, that's Kamala, and that's King, a new KKK, because we clapping back against injustice.
Oh, come on now, Pastor Haynes. Okay, I'm sorry. Who are we waiting for? Oh my goodness.
Wrongfully convicted.
5 teenagers were arrested, tried, convicted, and sent to prison.
No men were exonerated.
What he did to us, he tried to end us.
Of course I hate these people.
So-called the Central Park 5.
Calling for execution. And let's all hate these people.
You cannot have this man go into office again.
I want society to hate him. We were innocent kids.
The confessions were coerced.
Today, we are exonerated. That guy says he still stands by the original guilty verdict.
This is about democracy being on the ballot.
I have absolutely no compassion.
Look at Kamala. She represents the kaleidoscope of the human family. There's something different happening in America. We will get the opportunity to build a future where we will be able to thrive and not just survive.
The United States Postal Service is much more than a delivery system. It is a lifeline. People depend on it for medications, checks, ballots, and much more. But Mr. DeJoy, your leadership has placed this lifeline at risk. Your decisions to diminish services and consolidate processing plants have had devastating impacts on my constituents in the Massachusetts 7th. One constituent from Somerville reports missing checks and legal documents, describing how she repeatedly contacted USPS only to have her cases closed with false assurances. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record this constituent letter from May 2024.
Without objection, so ordered.
Another constituent in Grove Hall waited for time-sensitive letters regarding her Social Security disability benefits that never arrived. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record this constituent letter from August 2024.
Without objection, so ordered.
These are not isolated incidents. More than 80 Roxbury residents signed a letter to my office regarding the understaffed local post office. Here is an excerpt. It's common for customers to have to wait 30 to 45 minutes for service, and frequently no one is at any of the windows. The building often feels abandoned. They go on to describe delivery services and issues. Mail service in the surrounding zip codes has been similarly terrible for years now. Despite truly wonderful mail carriers, we frequently experience issues such as mail delays of 2 to 4 weeks, lost mail, misdelivered mail, and mail left outside of mailboxes. One constituent even reported being unable to pay their rent due to the delivery of a late Social Security check. I asked unanimous consent to enter into the record this constituent letter from April 2024.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. DeJoy, maybe if Congress should pass a law that forces you to receive all your income and prescriptions via postal mail, would you think it acceptable to have to wait a month or more to pay your bills or to take your medication? Yes or no? Do you think it's acceptable? Yes or no?
I don't think it's acceptable.
Okay, thank you. And I'm just curious, having listened to your testimony earlier today, and since you agree this is not an acceptable cadence of service, what grade would you give yourself?
I would give myself an A.
Okay, I vigorously disagree with that assessment.
I knew you would.
I would certainly give you a failing grade. What immediate actions will you take to restore reliable services in communities like Roxbury, Grove Hall, and Hyde Park, and Somerville in my district?
Well, in terms of general actions, it's the same actions and efforts that I have taken since I walked in the door here 4 years ago to try and improve the Postal Service. My staff will take down the names of the cities you asked about, and I will look into them specifically.
All right. During unannounced visits to Roxbury and Grove Hall branches, I want to transition into workforce for a moment. I saw firsthand that workers are demoralized and under-resourced, leaving communities underserved. I'm grateful to the American Postal Workers Union for raising the alarm on this and standing up for their members. On your watch, Mr. DeJoy, the USPS has been undermined across the board and even prompted audits of postal operations throughout Boston neighborhoods. Ms. Hull, after complaints from my office and others in the Massachusetts delegation, the Office of the Inspector General, in fact, launched an investigation. I look forward to reading that forthcoming report on these audits. In the meantime, how can my constituents who continue to struggle unjustly with USPS services when they have concerns around where should they communicate? Via hotline, a website, or other means?
Yeah, our hotline is definitely open and available. We get a number of hotline complaints, probably this last year about 350,000 complaints. We use those complaints. We obviously can't respond to every single one, but we use data analytics very effectively to identify hotspots around the country.
What is the hotline?
Our hotline, you can go to our website at uspsoig.gov, and there's a hotline form. All those complaints come in, and we look at all of them using data analytics to identify where hotspots are occurring, and use that to inform where we do audit work and investigative work as well.
All right, thank you very much. You know, it is, in fact, the collective action of my constituents and those from communities across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that brought attention to these issues, and I'm proud to stand alongside them. And Mr. DeJoy will keep the pressure up until we see a restoration of equitable, reliable services, because every community deserves exactly that. Thank you, and I yield back.
Chair recognizes Ms. Crockett from Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to talk about CARS, cons, concepts of a plan, and compensation. I'm going to actually start with the cons. There has been mention of DOGE and how that is going to come into play. And I'm curious to know, just yes or no, Inspector General Hull, quick question. Have you found that if the post office was to cut its workforce by 75%, that would somehow fix all of the problems within the post office? Yes or no?
No, we've not done any work in that area like that.
Thank you. Postmaster DeJoy, are you anticipating that a 75% cut in your workforce would solve all of the problems of the post office? Yes or no?
No.
Okay. So it's interesting because my colleagues seem to be so excited because there's a new sheriff in town, and the co-sheriffs of the DOGE committee, more specifically Mr. Ramaswamy, has actually proposed cutting 75% of our federal workforce to try to rein in some of the spending. Now, I want to talk about CARS because CARS have been discussed a lot as well as it relates to spending. And I want to know from you, Postmaster General, can you tell me approximately what is the lifespan of one of your postal vehicles? And I know you have various vehicles, so let me just say the letter carrier vehicles that they drive.
Well, letter carriers have a few different vehicles. Commercial off-the-shelf vehicles will last us 6-7 years.
Okay.
The special purpose built vehicles that we had, the LLVs that we had were supposed to last 20. They wound up, we're using them 30. Our new vehicles that we're buying, a special purpose vehicle, we expect to last longer than 20 years or longer.
Okay. So as we are comparing the various costs, and there's been a lot of conversation about the fact that there are electric vehicles, and it's my understanding that the electric vehicles are the ones that now have air conditioning, correct?
All the vehicles now have air conditioning, but yes.
You know, earlier it was brought up, and the reason that I care so deeply about the vehicle situation is that my constituent, Eugene Gates, was brought up earlier, who lost his life. This was somebody who did not need extra hours of training on how to properly hydrate, because this was someone who dedicated almost 40 years of his life to the post office. The reality is that the working conditions were not working. That's just the reality. This is someone who had done this job for so long. And I'm going to be honest, and I know that your office has received letters from us regarding Mr. Gates, but I am concerned, as my colleague, Mr. Kassar, laid out, that we still haven't figured out how to modernize and make sure that the working environment is going to work for our postal employees. So for instance, as you are rolling out these new vehicles, have you decided on a way to prioritize where these vehicles are going to go? And does that overlap with the areas in which we know, say, experience the most extreme heat conditions, such as in places like Texas? Have they been prioritized?
Yeah, so we're not filling the whole need, right? So there is a process of replacement of vehicles that.
Let me, and I'm gonna have to cut you because I've got to get to a few more things and I'm running out of time. So I'm just curious, are we prioritizing? Even if it means that you're gonna swap out, let's say the vehicles aren't necessarily up for being swapped out in Texas, but we know that in another area, they don't experience the extreme heat. So we move those vehicles, those areas, and make sure that the vehicles that are going to keep our postal employees safe are put into those areas that they're needed the most. Has that been a consideration?
We consider a lot of the country gets heat, and
I understand. We get extreme heat, is what I'm saying.
I will get you the process. I would say that it would not satisfy you to see that just Texas is getting any special difference. We have a bunch of procedures and strategies that we had to deploy vehicles. Let me get those for you.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. Okay. As it relates to delivering for America, it feels as if it's more a concept of a plan than an actual plan, because as you've stated earlier in your testimony, you had projections, and clearly those projections were completely off. But even as I've had my team, as we've sat here, really comb through and make sure that we didn't miss it, delivering for America, correct me if I'm wrong, does it deal with drones at all?
No.
Okay. So when we're talking about modernizing, do you not believe that it would be incumbent upon your organization to consider something like drones? Because as I've stated before, not only do I currently represent urban Dallas, Texas area, but I lived in East Texas, and I know what it looks like when you're trying to deliver, say, in rural America. And I know that there are other organizations that are doing things such as drone deliveries, which, number one, if you don't have the workforce that you need, it is very helpful. Number two, it's a lot more efficient because now you're talking about homes that are separated so far. And as you've heard from some of my colleagues in rural America talking about the delivery problems, I don't know how we can talk about modernization of any part of federal government and not talk about drones. We talk about it when we're talking about the border. We talk about it when we're talking about our military. And I'm just asking that if we are going to talk about a plan that really is looking at modernization, we look at something like drones, especially if DOJ gets their way and they start to get rid of some of your workforce. This potentially would be something that you would need. And the final thing that I have to say, I know I'm a little over, but I'm just asking for a little bit of leeway, is on the compensation piece. I will be honest with you and tell you that before walking in today, I was completely unaware of the fact that your compensation was so high. All I know is that as it was laid out before, your compensation has gone up approximately 17% since you've been in this post, and you consider yourself to have a grade A. I'm just curious to know, on average, when we look at our postal workers, such as workers like my constituent Eugene, who had been with the post office and literally gave his life of service to the post office, and he had been there for almost 40 years. On average, are we seeing that there's an increase in compensation to the tune of approximately 17% in the same time span as you've been with the post office for the average postal employee?
I think that over the last 4 years, and I mean, I don't know that it's a relevant comparison, but I think wages have gone up about 15%.
Okay. And my final question, really quickly, is that
look, I'm sorry, Ms. Crockett, you've gone 2.5 minutes over. We'll let you submit that.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
What's up, y'all? Look, Fanbase is more than a platform. It's a movement to empower creators, offering a unique opportunity for everyday people to invest in Black-owned tech, infrastructure, and help shape the future of social media. Investing in technology is essential for creating long-term wealth and influence in the digital age. The Black community must not only consume tech, we must own it.
Discover how equity crowdfunding can serve as a powerful tool for funding Black businesses, allowing entrepreneurs to raise capital directly through their community through the Jobs Act.
Okay, I got a lot of ground to cover. I do want to clarify, Mr. Fahey, when you consistently talk about NY or New York crime, you're speaking in an opinionated stance. You're not speaking from a place of fact, correct?
No, I'm speaking from a place of facts.
Okay, well, let me clarify for you. Thank you so much. I'm reclaiming my time. Let me clarify for you that NYPD puts out reports. And in April, it said overall index crime across New York City dropped another 4.9%. As it relates to May, the report says overall index crime across New York dropped another 2.4%, and June's report hasn't come out. I would ask for unanimous consent to enter this into the record. Now, moving on, I just want to level set because I feel as if some people don't understand how government works, and I don't know how they got to Congress. So, Mr. Wu, I'm gonna need you to help me out because I don't know that I trust that other people will know the answers to these questions. Number one, how many branches of government do we have?
3.
3, okay, sounds good. So, can you name them for me?
Legislative, judiciary, and executive.
Very good. Okay, so currently, I think that I serve in the legislative branch. Would you agree?
I agree.
Okay, fine. Can you tell me when somebody goes to court, such as a criminal convicted of 34 felony counts, state court in New York, would that be the legislative people or judicial people?
Well, it's really the executive that's prosecuting, and then it's within the judiciary to run the trial properly.
Okay, very good. So, judiciary. So typically, if someone has an issue with, say, what happens in court, do they then somehow hop from state court all the way to the federal legislative branch, or is there a different process in which you are supposed to be able to explain any issues you may have?
The process would be the judicial appellate process, holding aside the issue of state versus federal.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. So normally people don't get convicted on a state level and somehow end up litigating the issue on the federal level in the legislative branch. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So something is different about what's going on today. I just wanted to clarify because I thought I was living in the upside down for a second. Now, I want to move on and talk about how someone is prosecuted. Currently, because under Project 2025, we'll get there, there will be a different way to prosecute people. But currently, it is my understanding, and I only kind of went to law school, passed a couple of bar exams, and practiced on the state and federal levels, but just clarify for me, when someone goes in to be prosecuted, is it, say, the President of the United States that somehow becomes the state prosecutor in New York?
Oh, absolutely not.
Absolutely not, because he's the executor, huh? That's that other branch.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so you have this prosecutor, and in this case, it's Alvin Bragg, who was duly elected, correct?
Correct.
Not appointed by the president, correct?
Right.
Duly elected by the citizens in his jurisdiction, right?
Right.
So he's elected, and usually there's some sort of an investigation that takes place, correct?
Prior to his election?
No. With a case, I'm sorry.
Yes,
I've
correct.
moved on.
Yes.
All right. So the very first part of a case is that we go through an investigation. After that investigation, then the prosecutor usually has what we would consider to be some sort of prosecutorial discretion as to whether or not they want to go forward, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then they use that discretion, but then when it's somebody that is facing a felony amount of time, which is usually in most states over a year, then they have to present it to a grand jury. Is that right?
That's right.
Now, a grand jury is comprised of citizens, correct?
Correct.
U.S. citizens from that area, correct?
Right.
Okay, so they have to come to the conclusion that they are going to issue what we call a true bill, correct?
Correct.
All right, so then we have an indictment. And then there's pretrial motions, there's pretrial hearings, all kinds of stuff, right?
Right.
All right, and then ultimately, depending on where you are, you have the opportunity to say, hey, I want a jury trial, correct?
Correct.
And a jury trial is comprised of U.S. citizens again, right?
Right.
Okay, very good. All right, so can you tell me so far if all of this took place in the case in New York?
Yes, it did.
Oh, okay. All right, so you get to trial. Now, when you show up to trial and you're facing a felony amount of time, as a defendant, are you not entitled to an attorney?
Yes, you are.
And your attorney is allowed to pick the jury, they're allowed to present evidence, and ultimately, it is a jury of your peers who decides whether or not you are guilty or not, correct?
Correct.
And in this case,
the picking has the judge involved too.
And in this case, they found him guilty not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4, not 5, not 6. I could keep going on, but 34 counts were given. So the opinions of these people who were not juries is not what we do in this country. In this country, we have a system in which jurors decide who is found guilty, and if you have a problem with that, you go to the appellate court, which the last time I checked, he was raising money so that he could go to the appellate court and appeal his decision, and they will have the final say so. Thank you so much.
Time to get paid, blow up like Fanbase exclusive audio rooms are here. Now tap, talk, and get paid. Monetize your live podcast and most engaging conversations. You can now create exclusive audio chat rooms only for your subscribers and biggest fans. And as a user, subscribe, listen, and talk to your favorite creators. Now tap, talk, and get paid. Because everyone's a fan of something, and everyone has a fan base.